everyone, and welcome to tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 25th. It's 5:30 p.m., an early start due to our busy agenda for this evening. We are meeting in the Harry Butters Selectmen Chambers at Norwood Town Hall, 566 Washington Street, Norwood, Massachusetts. And the meeting is being broadcast live and for future recording by Norwood Community Media. So before we introduce the agenda for this evening, as is our tradition, we will have the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this evening we have a busy agenda, as I mentioned. We have several appointments this evening, including an appointment with Norwood Light and Broadband. We have a meeting, presentation from Sarah Dixon from the Comprehensive Plan Committee. We're also meeting with Patty Fanning from the Old Parish Preservation Volunteers. We have the Anti-Scam Task Force coming in for an appointment, and also Clayton Cheever, Director of Morrill Memorial Library, is also coming in here. This evening also we are looking at our utility budgets for the coming fiscal year, FY26. And this evening is also the meeting which we will be reviewing the draft town meeting warrants, both for the special town meeting as well as the annual town meeting. And then we also, at the end, do have an executive session scheduled. And at that point, I will read the notice for executive session. The board will go into executive session and we will return only for the purposes of adjournment. So at this time, it's just about 5:35. If you don't mind, gentlemen, starting a couple minutes early, how is that for you?
Thank you.
Or we can talk a little bit to make up 2 minutes time here, but if you're ready, we are. Why don't you introduce your team here, Kevin?
Thank you, Chairman Donnelly. So my name is Kevin Shaughnessy. I'm the superintendent of the Norwood Light and Broadband Department. Dan Morrissey's to my right, who's the COO. Jason Haber, back here without the tie on, runs the electric division. And I'm pretty sure, I'm just joking, but Darrell Hanson, the broadband manager, and Rich, so and Rich O'Reilly, who also is managing the broadband. He would be Darrell's number 2. So tonight, with your permission, we'd like to go over our budget for FY26. We have the electric budget and the broadband budget. Would you like me to begin?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Shaughnessy.
So this is the comprehensive budget. You can see a slight decrease compared to FY25. Our total request is $62,635,000. And we can go over whatever items you want to look at. Some show increases due to, for instance, the cost of power, and I'll talk about that when we get there. Contracted salary requirements, we have some, we settled our contract. They're offset by significant reductions in debt service. As you know, the debt service has gone off in the last, 3 or 4 years. We were able to retire the debt, much of it from the rate case we lost in about 2008 or so. The budget aims to balance overall operational necessities with fiscal responsibility while maintaining our reliable electric service. There will be no rate increase in electric.
And just for edification, when was the last time you guys did have a rate increase?
2018 was the last rate increase. As a matter of fact, there'd be a slight decrease because we've lowered our purchase power adjustment in our bills. I think it's at 0 now, right, Dan?
It is at 0.
Yeah, so that people may or may not have noticed, but there has been a slight decrease.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to hold questions?
Would you like, what do you want to do? Do you want to take questions as they come?
I'm fine. I
or-
can go through, like, a lot of times, I know that there's significant difference in the light
I
on.
have a question on that comment about,
Sure.
the rates. Are we concerned that the rates might be affected at all by anything going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. You know, the three big things that, you know, we talked about today and we've been talking about for a while, of course, tariffs, we're not sure. We think that it's gonna be okay. We're not open a lot you know, we're open probably 25%. So what do you mean? We're hedged. We have contracts for power, say 75%. We're looking to fill in some of the gaps to get to maybe 85%. So the reality is that the tariffs can hurt us even in that amount, those things that are already hedged. But most likely, you know, my best guess, it'll probably blow over. Who knows? But if we're seeing some kind of turning off of the spigot right now from Quebec, I don't think that's going to last. The second thing would be, of course, the Ukraine-Russian war. If that was to be settled, I think you'd see gas prices probably go down. It would open the spigot in Europe, which is really what keeps the prices high here. And then the third thing would just be the weather. If we had a really hot summer or a really cold winter. We've been fairly lucky. People might think this winter was really cold, but I think it's just relative to last winter. It really wasn't that bad. We used a little bit more than last year, but last year was very mild. So we're carrying about $1.5 million extra in our purchase power. But you know, the debt service that's dropping off is more than that. Coupled with a few other things, I think we'll be okay. If we aren't, we'll be coming back. We've been putting money aside now for many years, as you know, in rate stabilization. If we had to, we would come back to the board looking to use some of that so we wouldn't have to raise our rates. The other thing is if we could spend more than that if we use, you know, if people buy more power because of the weather, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, because we'll make more money too.
Thank you, sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. Thank you. So, I mean, I can probably just go through the line items that are different. I just talked about line 13, which is energy costs up 1.4 million. And please stop me at any point. Sometimes we see line item 15, maintenance of structures. We're just trying to, when we look at things, we look at what we did last year and we try and put things in the right account, and that's what's happening there. Same thing with line 17, maintenance of overhead lines. You can see line 29, indirect costs. That's just a standard increase. You know, we have to compensate the general government for the things that they do for the light department, which would be the treasurer's office, purchasing, general manager's office, you know, HR, things like that. See line 31, accounting and collecting. We had to spend a little bit more in software and billing costs. Line 32 it goes up, you know, it goes down a significant amount, and it's just adjusting to what we actually spent last year.
What is it, Kevin?
It goes from 51 to 12,000, so it's a reduction of 39,000. We were looking at the actuals. I don't have that figure in front of me, but I think it was about $10,000 last year.
That used to be the old conservation account,
Right.
Okay.
but now we have an actual conservation revolving account, so we use that. So this really doesn't get much.
You can see line 35, overhead lines, increases contractual supporting costs. You can see line 46 went up. This is, it's a new cost. We should have been paying Medicare, and now we are. So that's a good thing. Line 48, 49, we all know health insurance costs have gone up, so we increased them at the same percentage that everyone else had to. Liability insurance, there's an increase in our asset values, so we have a little bit of an increase in that. Line 55 and 56, debt. This, as I spoke about, this reflects a significant drop-off in our debt service. If you look at it, it's quite a bit. It's close to a little bit over $2 million. So that's what I was talking about with purchase power. We'll have some, hopefully, some wiggle room. We have the project debt, which is, it looks new. That's the debt interest for Moderna. We have the ban We have to list it here, but we get it back. We actually bill them for that. And then line 62 is just depreciation. Of course, that increases by the amount every year of the value, additional 3%. And salaries, you know, it looks like 2.25%. You can see the difference. We carried money for the contract last year because it didn't settle in time, so we had an amount as a budget line item. So in some instances, it looks like a large number, but that's because we didn't carry it on that line item from the year before. We took it out of a separate one. So you have to kind of think of the increases as 2 years.
Okay.
So overall, the electric budget is down 0.2%, and that's mostly because of the debt service dropping off. I'm probably gonna just quickly go through the broadband budget, and then Darrell and Rich are here, and they can speak about the project, any questions you have. If you wanna talk about the electric budget first, I'm more than
Ms.
happy
Stark?
to hear.
I did want to ask an
Sure.
electric question before we get into broadband.
Sure.
I remember a few years ago, there were struggles on equipment, on like transformers for replacements and such. Is supply chains settled down at all for us, or is it still pretty volatile?
Yeah, I'll let Jason answer that.
No, I mean, it's settled down a bit, but it's nowhere near where it was in the pre-COVID timeframe. So I mean, something that was 2 months lead time went up to maybe 100 weeks. Now it's back down in the 40, 50-week range, for example. So we're still, I think the push to electrify America has increased the lead times, but it has gotten better.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
I think we're lucky in the sense that Jason prepared, and he did order a lot of transformers that you see coming in, and probably ordered them, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we start to see them come in, and we're lucky because there are people calling us from other municipals looking for, to borrow pole mounts or whatever, if we have them.
So, Mr. Plasko.
you have a question? Go ahead.
So, in the past few weeks, we've been hearing a lot about the rising energy costs from utilities, and I believe this is probably specifically Eversource and National Grid, to the extent that the governor is offering credits. What are we doing that we're not in the same category as the public utilities in terms of the cost escalation that they're experiencing?
Well, we're always gonna be in a different boat than them. We're not regulated the same way by the DPU. And, we can do the presentation later, but you'll see that our costs are about, I'll say they're about 110% more than us for pretty much across the board, with the electric, the residential rates. That's a tough question. The reality is, we don't have to make a profit. We have, interest-free debt. Tax-free debt is what I meant to say. We also can have long-term contracts, which they right now typically don't have. They have like 6 months out. So if there's, volatility in the market, they're not able to ride it out as easily as us. And they just pass their costs along. We're very conservative. We'll hedge 80%, 90%. Many of the municipals play the market a little bit. They might have 50% open, and sometimes it works out. The day market, you get some, the cost of power and energy is cheaper. But then there's times when it's not, like in a couple of years ago when it spiked.
Yep.
And, we don't want to come back in here telling you that the rates have to go up 25% because we'd probably all be out of a job. So
All right.
that's in general, we're lucky in the sense that we have long-term contracts. And we just, I don't want to say it, but we do a better job, I think, in general.
You can say it.
So, I think we do.
Tony is shaking his head yes.
Mr. Plasko had a
Yeah,
question.
well, if the people want to pay the other source prices, we'll voluntarily give them $75 each back. Capital expenses,
Okay.
depreciation, underground cable, what's that for?
Well, and I'll let Dan answer that. Which line item are you talking
The
about?
bottom on 65?
55?
65.
65?
65, under capital.
Oh,
Okay,
the
yeah,
project,
no,
yeah,
yeah,
that's a specific project.
We have miles of paper insulated cable that's been in the ground for over 50 years. And a lot of our outage time is subject to losing a feeder. That's what, it comes out of the substation, this type of cable. So our plan is to replace this cable over the next 2 to 3 years. And it's probably a $9 to $10 million project overall.
So now I want to educate myself. I'm kind of, thought I knew what depreciation was. Why isn't this part of the depreciation? We just take it out when we're spending it. Why do we have a separate line?
Because of the overall cost of this, if you look at our
So
depreciation
big, you're
budget
just
to
trying to
cover the
identify it?
$10 million, so what we can do is take $2 million and dedicate it towards this project, and then we still have depreciation, which, like you were talking about the lead times of transform, the prices have also gone up significantly. So what we would have bought a pole mount transformer for about $800 5 years ago is now probably $2,500 to $3,000. So those costs have gone up quite a bit. So we still need the depreciation money for any of those projects. And our overhead lines are still, they're getting older, especially a lot of the old Hendricks. So we need to replace that. And those are all depreciation projects that we'll be doing as well. But in order to get that underground cable replaced in a timely fashion, we really need to put more money into it at this time.
We'll probably,
Yes,
we've done
mostly.
quite a bit of it, Bill. We'll probably come to you to borrow money for that. If you remember the last few years, we aren't putting as much money into rate stabilization as we had in the past. It's been going to this.
Yeah.
Because we're thinking about not wanting to borrow. Dan said 8 or 9 million. I think we've already spent quite a bit on the last few years replacing. I'd have to ask Jason, but we've replaced quite a bit of the paper and lead cable. Some of it's way more than 50 years old. I think some of it's, 60 or 70.
I think it's probably worth also mentioning that this is the third year, you guys actually voted on this a few years back. This is the third year that we've made the $2 million that were transferred up, help fund the project.
So that work's mostly done by contractors.
Yes.
Yeah, our guys, if you're out and you see people on Dean Street, Pleasant Street, that's what they're doing. It's this project, typically, unless we have an outage or, But as Dan said, and Jason would verify, a lot of the long-term, like the outages that take a long time at this type of failure, because we have to find it. We go out and when it's in the ground, it's easy to see things when they blow up overhead, a pole gets hit or a tree comes down or, whatever. But when it's underground, it takes us a little bit longer to
People
find
think
it.
it's easier. They don't know when something goes wrong, it's worse.
Yeah,
Much more difficult.
and that's, so and a lot of the stuff's in the same, you might have 4 or 5 feeders in the same manhole. So we don't want to have failures because that can affect the other, feeders. Even if it doesn't happen right away down the road, because it's an explosion, down the road you might have, failure in the same hole just because of something that happened a year before or 6 months before.
Thank
So
you.
it's a project that we really need to, we're doing I think I want to say we're like a third way done, maybe half. Jason, how far along?
Yeah, we're probably halfway
Yeah.
done.
Maybe half.
Yeah.
Everything-
Bid open on Thursday. so.
Everything's out from the substation out is done all the way to the car wash on Dean Street. So we're across Route 1 with every single feeder. After that, now we need the longer feeders, which are like rise up in front of the library or rise up in some other locations. And there's a significant amount of cable there.
Yeah.
And you figure a manhole's every 400 feet apart.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that station was built in 1970 or something, so that, all those cables, the other station doesn't have paper, it has rubber cable. So, any other questions on the electric?
I think you can go right into broadband.
Oh, okay, real quick. So Darrell is here, and he can talk about any budget items, but he'll also be here to talk about the fiber to the premises project. So there's an increase of 0.36% compared to FY '25. The total request amounting to a little over $8 million. Again, some line items show increases due to new borrowing and rising healthcare costs. These are offset by reductions in salary costs, cable programming fees, existing debt service, which is coming off the books. We aim to balance operational necessities with fiscal responsibility while maintaining reliable broadband service for our residents and businesses. Again, I'll be happy to go through it line by line, or if you have any questions. You want me to do the same thing and just kind of mention the ones that I see?
highlights.
Okay. We see line 14, a dramatic increase, and this is just looking at actuals, what they actually spent. We do this in the electric side too. What happens is we budget a number hoping that we don't have an underground failure. But if we do, it's certainly gonna be more than like 2,500 we budgeted last year. It's gonna be like, if you had say a failure in one of the multiple dwelling units, and you have to go get a man and machine and dig it up and fix it, it's not gonna be that. It's gonna be much more. So we carried a number that we felt was more reasonable. We might not use it, but that's why you see such a big increase. Line 20, bank charges. I see Sue Bartlett here, she was all over this. We were paying these fees, and we just couldn't get out of it. And finally, Sue figured out a way so that we're not paying them anymore, and we're gonna save, it looks like close to $20,000, $18,000.
Nice job, Sue.
Thanks, Sue Bartlett.
Keep it up.
Yep, she's great. We have, it looks like, line 21, we're gonna increase our marketing efforts because of the fiber to the home. We have, I'll let Darryl talk about the connectivity if you want to, increasing costs for internet and phone. It's essentially what comes out of our head end. Looks like there's is that a decrease on one side, programming costs, but there's an increase of $30,000 on the ISP connectivity, which is really not that much. Line 29, which is accounting and collecting, it's just billing system upgrade, GLDS. We're getting a new, we have gotten it, but we're implementing it. It's costing, a little bit more. 32 is pole attachment fees. We hadn't been carrying, we had been, but we looked at it. We charge attachment fees to, Comcast and so forth. So we really should be, to be fair, the broadband should be paying attachment fees as well. So that's what that is. Line 38, Medicare, same thing as the electric. We hadn't been paying our fair share, and now we are. So hopefully, if it gets
Can I jump back, Kevin?
Sure.
Sorry.
Sure.
Talking about the amount for advertising, and it's nice to see the increase, because I think that's important. Because because you're doing stuff that some of our competitors that shall not be named aren't doing, these investments, fiber to the home, things like that. Is it worth looking at exploring even more of an advertising budget to take advantage of the fact that we're doing things that our competitors aren't? Or do you think this is a good amount?
Well, some of it's coming out of the project money that we haven't really borrowed anything yet. We're waiting to get the final numbers on the install contract. You as a board have allowed us to, electric, to lend broadband $2 million last year and $2 million this year. We only transferred $2 million. So we're looking at borrowing, somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 or $5 million. We'll talk to the treasurer and town accountant at some point here once we get the numbers. But we will have to spend more in advertising. I just don't know that it'll come from this line item. I think it'll be from the budget. We're already we have contractors that we've
Locked in already?
Yeah, because we have to get ahead of this.
Thank you. And then I had a question on advertising as well, which is in terms of acquiring and reacquiring customers. Do we have a sense of how much are we getting back? Like, if for every dollar we spend on an ad, we're making X. What is X for us? Do we know?
Yeah, no, we don't, because we really haven't gotten into what we're doing yet. We haven't signed up any fiber customers yet because we're just not ready.
Yeah.
We will, and that would be nice to know, right? Because that's how we're going to decide what we need to borrow and what we need to spend. But as we do neighborhoods and we go in, I think we're going to learn, and we're going to have to change whatever we're, if it doesn't work, we'll have to do something else. And there's a lot of customers that we have a couple of thousand customers that are just internet customers. I think we'll get those. It's going to cost them a little bit more. They're going to get a much better product, and it's not going to cost them all that much more. And they're going to have it for 20 years, and we're willing to help people in their homes with streaming devices and so forth. The people that we have, there's over 3,000 that also get video from us. That's going to be much harder. Our value is going to be, if you take our internet, and it's gonna be super, really, it's gonna be the best. No one's gonna have better around here. But you have to then go out and get your YouTube TV or DirecTV or whatever. But overall, if you look at our internet plus that, you're gonna have a substantial savings, and that's the advertising, that's how we have to convince people. And it may be, we're gonna have to go talk to people or invite them in or go to different places to, could be the senior center, whatever it takes, we're gonna have to do that, because it's not gonna be easy. We skew on the older side as far as customers go, particularly video customers. So I don't have a good answer for you, but we will, obviously, once we start.
Great.
If I can just add one, we are working with a marketing company, we're very close on some of the marketing ideas, and obviously the things they're pushing are reliability, value, and for the type of product we'll be offering, our price will be significantly less than the competitors, which is the gigabit and some of the other stuff that a lot of people may not even, they hear a gigabit, they don't really care what that is, but it's very fast, and it's, as we said, it's gonna be very reliable. It's a state-of-the-art system, so.
And clearly you'll bring the fiber to my premises first, right?
Yes, we are working with a multitude of customers to try and do that, so.
Well, I don't want to brag, but I have it, so. I don't know, I think they started out in that.
Yeah, right.
I had no, I didn't ask them to, but I will say this, and people may not realize this. I was always very happy with what I had. But I do notice a difference, when I'm streaming, whether, especially a sporting event, like if I'm watching basketball or hockey, don't see that little latency anymore. And it's really different, it's better. And I didn't know that it would be, I kind of, what's gonna be really that different, but it is, it's and I think I'm only at 1 gig, so I'm hoping to bump it up to the next level at some point. I'm willing to pay for it, Darrell. I already pay extra. I'm already paying for it. All right, so we're in the broadband budget. I think I made it down to pole attachment fees that we added. I was over on Medicare. Obviously, there's a health insurance increase, the same as in electric. It's the same percentage. Line 48, there's a little bit of equipment expense increase, cost of hardware. Same as in electric, it's getting more expensive. Lines 49 and 50, this is the debt that we talked about coming off the books. You can see in both of those, it actually goes all the way to 50, and then you can see the principal, it says here principal to light, but it's principal to electric. So like I said, we did ask the board if we could loan from electric to broadband, and this is the payment back that we're budgeting. We're doing it as almost like our own band. We're not quite sure if they're gonna borrow, if we're gonna have them borrow, or we can just set it up as I think right now we have it as a 15-year that they'd be paying us back. But we can adjust that. We're just not quite, I just have to get that last contract so I can see what the overall costs are gonna be. And then the transfer to depreciation, we increased it a little bit. Last year was 300,000, this year will be 350, and we'll just use that like we use electric money to perform projects in broadband. So the summary here is the salaries are down a little bit, 6.7%. And I think that's because we just have one less position. Broadband operating expenses are up slightly, 2.37%, and capital expenses are up 5% for just the reason I told you about the transfer. So overall, broadband total request is $8,002,650, which is a $28,916 increase, and that's 0.36%. And I'd be happy to answer questions, but I think Darrell would be better at that.
Any questions on broadband? Mike, Mr. Saab.
I'm gonna let him, because you probably want to hear an update on the project, so I'm gonna jump up there. Yeah.
Tomorrow you get to sit in his office.
Mine was basically a question for, I guess, I'm not sure if you're a senior veteran disability person with discount, if we want to get more Norwood seniors on board. I mean, have you thought of that, or do we ever have that?
Sure, we have a discount now, which
Yep.
is part of our franchise agreement, but we're gonna continue that going forward.
Okay.
And it's gonna, I think it's gonna change a little bit, where it's gonna be a percentage rather than a fixed amount. So depending on how much you're paying, it's gonna fluctuate, so.
Yeah, say, as Kevin backs it up, coach over there, it's lightning speed, I'm impressed. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sad. Any questions for Darrell? For broadband?
I think you'll just give us an update.
Sure, I can give you an
Yeah, gonna
update
go over
on
the
where we
update
are,
now?
sure.
Okay.
You've probably all seen our contractors around town. There's a ton of them out there. We're about 50% constructed now of the new build throughout town, and about 25% of that is ready to install. It's turned on, it's been tested, ready to install. So as Kevin said, we've got to finish up our marketing plan, get the installation contractor in here, a couple other things to get that started. We're hoping, late May, early June to start actually hooking people up. Completion of the construction, probably towards the end of the year. There'll be several months after that. We're doing cleanup, some of the underground areas that are a little bit more difficult to get done. And really, that's everything in a nutshell. It's going good. We've had a few delays. At the beginning, it was getting materials, which everybody had. Right now, we're having some labor issues getting enough splicers, fiber splicers in. So little delays like that are shifting our schedule back a little bit, but every time we run into something like that, we bring in more crews to try to make up for it. So moving along pretty well.
Any other questions from the update?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to say great work. We really appreciate all the hard work. It's been cool to see the genesis of this project and where it's at, and it's really exciting. I think the end result is going to be really good for the town.
Sure. And I heard we picked up a new influencer today.
Perhaps.
Ms. Carr?
And then just a small thing, I think, one of the things I'm kind of excited about with the project is my impression, at least some of the research I'd seen, and I think you and I had talked about it a year or two ago, with this technology, we're kind of future-proofed a little bit, because it doesn't seem like there's a limit to how fast we can make it go if we set it right.
Sure. We're just out of the box. We're at 10 gig.
Yeah.
That we can offer. We're not going to offer that right out of the box, but we can. We have the capability of doing that. So we got a lot of room for growth. And by the time 10 gig is needed at a home, it'll be an easy upgrade.
Yeah.
It's going to be just changing something in the home and something in our office, and we're upgrading the plant.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a good thing for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell.
You're welcome.
So just
Thanks, Rich.
You guys have some
Well, I don't know.
comparisons you want to do?
Yeah, well, we can go quickly through this, and if you say no, that's, you won't hurt our feelings.
Before we go into the presentation for the update, since we now have reviewed the proposed budgets for both the light department and broadband, and there doesn't seem to be any further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the FY26 budget. So, Mr. Sabb, you have a
Just a
question?
quick question, I'll make a motion. On the billing, I got a couple of people call me on the billing, that graph on the electric bills.
Mhm.
Maybe blow that up just a little bit more.
Yeah,
You know
we
what I'm
can
saying, on the
look at
bills?
that. Just the, okay.
The graph. Your
Sure.
seniors can't read it too good, I'm getting older, so I can't read it that good either.
All right.
On the motion, I'd like to make a motion to approve the budgets, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second on Mr. Sabb's?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Grow. All in favor of the motion to approve the two budgets, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, it's 5-0 carry. And Kevin, you're welcome to start your update.
Okay, well, I'll go through this really quickly, but it's, it's always, this is when we toot our own horn, right? But just so people know, we haven't raised the rates, we said that, it's been quite a while, about 7 years. I don't know, we have, this is just the understanding of usage, so typically, the average New England home uses between 550 and 700 kilowatt hours, it would be similar, Norwood would be similar. And you can see these things on your bill, you can check your electric bill, look for the monthly KWH. The home size, number of occupants, appliances, efficiency, and all that would play into this. But in general, if you look, we used to say 550, because we do have a lot of apartments in Norwood, is the average. It's a little bit higher than that now, it's more like 700, but we've been doing 550, and it was an industry average. 750 is more the standard now, but NLD's rate, for 550 is $95, which is a lot, but if you were in the surrounding towns, Eversource, which surrounds us completely, it would be about $202. So the monthly savings is over $100, which I think is great. I'm happy to pay less, which I'm sure most people are. The rate comparison at 1,000, which would be typical of a house that's 2,500 square feet or 3,000, or it depends on what you have, right? If you have a pool or central air and things like that. But our bill is about $165, and Eversource would charge $359, which is about 117% higher. So there's a good savings by having the light department, and we hope that will continue. I think it will. I think I don't. This is reliability is something that I know we have, and there are reliability standards and so forth. But I think I'm going to let Jason, since he's the one who does this.
Yeah, I'll make this quick and painless. I appreciate the time. So I know, as an engineer, I like seeing actual numbers and data. I think it's important to point out for the third year in a row, the town of Norwood Light Department's been recognized by the American Public Power Association for our excellence in reliability. So if you come to our office, you'll see a plaque in the main area that says that. But if you don't mind going a slide, this just kind of shows the different metrics that the utility industry uses. I won't get into all of them. The big one is the top one, SAIDI. So it's the System Average Interruption Duration Index. So what that means is how long are you out? That's what people care about. So if you go to the next slide, it basically shows that for the town of Norwood for 2024, our average outage per customer was 24.8 minutes, and all the utilities in the region were in the 50s. So we're basically 30 minutes faster response time than the average utility in the Northeast, and it gets even bigger if you count the entire country. So you got to keep in mind that a lot of these outages happen on Saturdays, on Sundays at nighttime. This is how long it takes the supervisor to get the call, call the guys in, or the operations people in, have them respond to the scene, diagnose the outage, and get the power back on. The average is 25 minutes. So we're impressed by that. I'm actually proud of that. I think that's a testament to our entire group, customer service to take the call, to get the call to the correct person, operations to get the guys out from the field. It's an impressive number. So if you want to keep going one more.
Many people live in Norwood that work for the light department, which is good.
I'm sorry, Rhonda, go ahead.
And then the other thing I'm always impressed by is I think I can count on maybe one hand the number of outages total that I've experienced since living in Norwood over like 18 years, right?
So this is the other thing that's important. This is the System Average Interruption Frequency Index. This is how many outages the average customer has a year. So if there's 16,000 people in town, on average you're going to experience 0.46 outages a year. So it's like golf. You want to be as close to zero as possible. Obviously, zero is our goal. It's impossible, but that's our goal. But when you got 16,000 customers, sometimes an outage can be 2,000 people. But we're talking an overall 8,000 people out over the course of the entire year over every outage. So that's a good number. That's a number that we're proud of. And this is actually a number that's down. The last two numbers are down significantly to our previous years. And that's by getting the cable out of the ground that Dan was talking about earlier. So by getting this old cable out of the ground, we're putting in new cable, and our system, like for example, 2023, it was 41 minutes an outage. Now we're down to 25. So by getting the old stuff out, the new stuff in, it's helping us, and we can see in the actual numbers how it's helping us. So if you want to keep going, this just shows our primary causes. Number one, believe it or not, it's animals. It's always animals. It's birds and squirrels and animals. Then we got equipment failure, and trees and vehicles. Vehicles are a problem. You get somebody out there driving on their phone or changing the radio. They hit a pole, you got an outage. So Those are our primary causes. Amanda, go ahead.
That equipment failure metric, has that been pretty stable, or are we starting to see it kind of climb up as we've got hotter summers and more people drawing down
It's actually
power?
down. So
Well, that's great.
2023, it was high. It was our number one. It was our leading cause of outages. We did have one big cable failure in 2024. So that's why it's so high, because when you lose a feeder cable, you're losing 3,000 customers. You're not losing 10, 20 customers like you would overhead wire. You're losing thousands. So it drives up when you look at the pie chart for how many minutes of outages, it drives it up, obviously. So the answer is it's actually down.
Great.
I'm glad to see you people are consistent. When I first got on the board, it was totally naive about the light department, and somebody would call and they'd see there had been a failure, and I want to know why there's a failure, and they blame the squirrels. And they're still doing it. Very good.
I remember hearing a story of an old timer about that, but I'll leave it
Okay.
for off the record. I'll leave it for off the record. But yeah, that's really the summary. We take a lot of pride. It's a team effort. Management, upper management, union personnel, customer service, billing. It's really a team effort. We got a small team over there, but without everybody operating in unison, we wouldn't be able to have these type of numbers. So that's really it, I think, on this.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Jason.
We have a 6:15 appointment. We've got a minute or two for any final questions, thoughts from the board. Is there anybody,
No, thank you. Thank you for the job. Thank
You
you
got
for
the
the
great
budget.
work under the helm of Coach Auerbach over there. Thanks, Kevin, Keem.
Should we close out those two capital projects?
Yeah, we could do that.
We don't need them here for the right?
We don't need you here for the closeout, but if you want, we do have 1 minute. I do believe that's pretty quick. Under new business, we have 4.1, Light Department closeout of completed capital projects. While you're here, why don't we take care of that agenda item?
Motion that.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if anybody has any questions about the closeout?
Yeah, I'll just make a motion to approve the use of the surplus bond funds for the Light Department debt.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Okay.
All opposed, it's unanimous. Your 2 items taken care of, gentlemen. So have a good evening.
Thank you.
And
Great.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Thanks,
Sue.
everybody.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Lane, for pointing that out.
I do.
Thank
So-
you. Thanks,
See you
Kevin.
guys.
Good
Take care.
evening.
Good seeing you.
So we do have about a minute before our next appointment. Why don't we go to just take care of a couple of quick items. Back to item number 1, warrant signature update. May I have a motion?
Motion to sign?
And seconded?
Seconded.
Mr. Lane, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, that's 5-0 carry. At this point, we can invite Ms. Dixon in.
Into the minutes.
And, yeah, well, that's a good point. I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 11, 2025.
Motion to- Second.
Mr. Lane, seconded by Ms. Grove. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Welcome, Ms. Dixon. It's 6:15. You're up.
They sent you all by your lonesomes?
I'm sorry?
They sent you all alone, did they?
All by myself?
Unbelievable.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And, yeah, we, being on the comprehensive plan, I'm pretty familiar with the process and where we are, but now that we are sort of a ways into the, little ways into the public engagement portion of the project, we thought it was a good opportunity to have Sarah in here to kind of give us the overview and plan update on the comprehensive plan. So Ms. Dixon, floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm excited to give you a little update on the comprehensive plan. It's making fantastic progress, and I'm thrilled to be able to share a little bit of that with you. Is this?
No, just let me know when you want to advance the slide.
All right, next, please. All right, so we have been working with a consulting team, J.M. Goldson, throughout this process. They have a deep bank of experience doing comprehensive planning statewide. We've worked with them before on our housing production plan a number of years ago, so they were not complete strangers to Norwood, and they've provided a lot of the support to kind of drive this plan. Jen Goldson is the consultant director, and we work primarily with Laura Smead as our project manager. Next slide, please. We have a 10-member steering committee, as you know. Some members are part of regulatory or other important boards and committees and represent those groups. And then we have 5 at-large members, residents representing their own parts of the community. So next slide. I know we've already probably gone over a lot of this, so this isn't brand new information to you, but just kind of briefly what the fundamentals of the comprehensive plan are. Comprehensive plan is a long-range visionary type plan. The plan duration for ours is about 10 years. Really what we're doing is we're setting our desired direction. Where do we want to be in 10 years as a community? The comprehensive plan, when it's finished, will be a policy document to really help guide local decision makers. That sets the priorities for projects that we want to pursue in the next 10 years, whether that means, you know, funding further study of something or pursuing zoning in a particular geographic area or on a particular economic use. And it could look like creation of programs in certain resident support ways. It really kind of helps us set the priority for the next 10 years. Next, please. One way that our consultants like to put it, as you saw on the last slide, comprehensive plans are ways to respond to change over time. And I like that phrasing because I think it kind of gets to these kind of fundamental questions and challenges about a community's growth over a 10-year period. How do you balance those competing interests? These are really fundamental land use challenges. Figuring out how and where you want to grow as a community, at the same time also pursuing the how and where do you want to preserve? What parts of the community do you want to stay the same or are treasured and special? And we want to find a way to make sure they're still here in 10 years. How can you be strategic about pursuing those priorities? Asking what's the community's authentic identity? Who are we now? Who do we want to be in 10 years? And how can we get there? Next, please. There are 8 core elements of a comprehensive plan. State law defines what these are, and they, I recognize, are pretty small on the screen in favor of being able to create a nice little graphic. Briefly, they're people, housing, economy, transportation, historic and culture, open space and recreation, facilities and services, and land use and zoning. The planning process kind of seeks to recognize the interdisciplinary nature of all of these elements. So although we do divide our plan into these elements, and that's how we're framing this process, I also want to offer that we recognize that each of these elements are very connected, right? These respective areas are disciplinary, and within each of these elements there may be tensions or synergies that we can explore a little bit more, and that's one of the goals of the plan. Next, please. So overall, this is a kind of a broad view of the planning process. There's 4 basic phases. Phase 1 is really about yesterday and today. It's kind of your state of the union, if you will. There's a lot of data analysis across all of the elements associated with this plan, and the deliverable at the end of phase 1 is an existing conditions summary, which I believe was provided to you in your materials for this week. The next phase is all about figuring out tomorrow, right? So if the phase 1 is establishing the starting line, where are we today? Phase 2 is really about what's next, and where do we want to go? That's a process that's heavy on community engagement, whereas phase 1 is really very data driven. You know, it's a lot of data analysis and research. to kind of figure out where we are on these basic elements. Phase 2 is really about setting that vision, and we look very heavily to the community to assist in kind of drawing that vision, if you will. So that's where we're at now. We've completed phase 1. We are in the midst of phase 2. Phase 3 is, now that we've figured out our vision, how are we going to do it? What are the strategies that we are going to employ in order to get there? And then phase 4, kind of continues that thought and really kind of finalizing and implementing the plan, with a hopeful finish date of February 2026. So as I said, we've just completed phase 1. Next slide, please. And the existing conditions summary is the document that was the deliverable of that phase. It's available on the project's website. If anybody who's watching this or listening in later wants to check it out, briefly, the project website is tinyurl.com/NorwoodCP. A link to that is also available from the Community Developments page on the town's website. You can also call or email my office, and I would be more than happy to send it to you or answer any questions that anybody might have about it. Next slide, please. The purpose of phase 1 was not meant to be about recommendations or policy. Like I said, it's really about kind of figuring out what our starting line is, demographically, what are our, who lives here, where do they go for work, what are the types of jobs that are available here. I mean, it was really, really data driven. And the goal is to identify and define Norwood as it is today. That summary was based pretty heavily on census data, state data, local reports and studies. It did include some engagement, interviews with key stakeholders, like, for example, our consultant interviewed all department heads to talk about the respective plan elements. We had a community open house in December that was pretty well attended, and we got a lot of great feedback that was incorporated into this first deliverable. I'll give you a brief overview of the 6 kind of key trends that were identified in that existing conditions summary. Next slide, please. The first one is about the demographics of our population. And in nearly every way, Norwood's trends here reflected state trends. There was not much that was really different about Norwood's population than has been observed statewide. Our population is slowly increasing after years of kind of a very small decline, and it's aging, and the household sizes are getting smaller. So, people are living longer, they're aging in place. People who are having families are having fewer children if they have kids at all, right? So these are trends that are kind of happening statewide, but they're happening here in Norwood as well. Next slide, please. This one goes to affordability. No surprise to anybody here, housing costs are rapidly rising, and those increases do disproportionately impact the more vulnerable among us. Low and middle income households are particularly susceptible, of course, to these changes in our community. Although there are several factors like commute times, access to community resources, and environmental risks that are also disproportionately distributed across our population based on things like which neighborhood you live in, your social mobility, race, or your income. This is also not unique to Norwood, right? This is happening everywhere in the state, but certainly it's happening here in Norwood. Next slide, please. This is a graphic that was included in the existing condition summary that I thought was interesting that I wanted to highlight here. Even though the housing affordability crisis does disproportionately impact low and middle income households and households of color, I think it's notable here that the median home price, median prices for a home, either a condo or a single family home, exceed the town median income. So that means regardless of race or household size, there's no median income household in Norwood that can afford a 30-year mortgage on a median priced single-family home or condo without spending more than 30% of their income on those housing costs. So that's universal across a town, and that really does impact first-time home buyers the most, but there's kind of ripple impacts that kind of cross into different disciplines. One way we've seen that, I think locally, if I can editorialize a little bit, is in building permit activity. With limited mobility, you're not able to move as easily into a bigger house that you might need or a smaller house that you might need. You see a lot of people pursuing renovations or things like that to be able to make their current space work. So it's an interesting trend that impacts more than just the folks who are looking to buy a house for the first time. The next key trend, if I can offer a little palate cleanser of good news after the last one, is that we have a really dynamic economy. Our commercial base is very strong. I'm not telling you folks anything you don't already know. It's something we should be really proud of. We've got abundant resources in Norwood to support a really strong local economy. Our commercial sector is strong and it's diversifying, right? So we have a variety of industries in Norwood that are growing and strengthening, and that makes us more sustainable to kind of weather through any economic shifts and changes that may happen in the coming years. So that's great news. One key piece of data that our consultant reported on in the existing condition summary that surprised me, but I also found really interesting, was that our population in Norwood grows during the daytime. More people come to work in Norwood than pursue work elsewhere. And what really surprised me is that there's actually a pretty small percentage of people who both live and work in Norwood. Being one of those people, I found that to be a little bit odd. It surprised me, but there aren't many communities like ours where more people are coming in during the daytime to work. So that's something that is an area of great strength for us as we kind of go into this next 10-year period. Next slide, please. The fourth key trend that the existing conditions summary noted was about connections, specifically transit connections, and then also connections and access to green space. Those are kind of two crucial quality of life elements that we look at in a comprehensive plan. We're doing really well in both of these. Most residents in Norwood have great access to transit and green space. This map shows that the areas where those opportunities are more limited, there's the biggest gaps in access to both of those things is in the eastern part of town, the land kind of on the other side of Route 1. So green space, that presents an area of opportunity. There are a lot of things that I think we'll be able to talk about in phases 2 and 3 about vision and strategy for improving those connections on the eastern side of town. But the note here from our consultant that I appreciate is that transit is a little bit trickier, right? That's a tougher nut to crack and really requires more regional collaboration with our surrounding communities to kind of improve outcomes there. But regardless, that's kind of where we're at today. Next slide, please. A changing climate, again, this is not new information. I think everybody knows that we're seeing more frequent and more severe weather-related events. We've been engaging, in lots of hazard mitigation planning and emergency management planning over the years, but we see that's going to require some of our focus on the municipal side when we're thinking about what we want to plan for in the next 10 years. Specifically to heat islands and the tree cover impacts. And next slide, please. And the last one is a trend that I personally am pretty proud of as a resident here and also in my professional role. Our historic development pattern here is very consistent with best practices in smart growth. We have walkable and mixed use and transit-oriented communities. But at the same time, we have protected open space. We're still increasing our open space across town, which is something we should be proud of. And we also have a demonstrated commitment to protection of historic sites. And that's where we are at today. So if you ask me, I think that's a fantastic starting line for any community that's in this phase of comprehensive planning. Next slide, please. So that brings us to phase 2, the vision setting kind of phase where we say, okay, well, what's next? Next slide, please. As I mentioned, this phase is really heavy on community engagement. This is the part where we want to hear from as many stakeholders in the community as possible. This really is the community's plan, and without involvement from the public in writing it, it's not going to be the best plan that it can be. So to that end, we need help. We need help from the selectmen. We need help from residents. We need help from local businesses to kind of spread the word and help us promote the participation opportunities in the plan. You may have seen this sign around town. We've got this flyers. We've made lawn signs out of it. We're putting it on social media and NCM. We've had it in the school flyers. If you have any more ideas for places that we can send information, I'd love to hear them. Feel free to reach out to me with your ideas. But this directs folks to 3 kind of crucial ways to participate that I'll discuss in a moment. But next slide, if you don't mind. This is really important to the steering committee, public engagement. It's been a prime focus of our discussions, so much so that early in phase 1, the steering committee wrote a public engagement plan. Both the plan to plan, the plan before the plan, to talk about how we would be strategic in getting the community involved, to really make sure that the content here is reflective of what people need and what they value. Some of the basic principles in that plan are go where the people are, eliminate as many barriers to access and participation as possible. So let's find folks where they are. Let's make it easy. Let's use the resources and tools that they use and they prefer, and use a variety of ways to engage. And so sometimes that looks like different media options, right? So that means we have a paper survey and we have that same survey online. Sometimes that means have an in-person forum. Sometimes that means go out and have conversations in neighborhoods. But sometimes it's about how you're engaging with folks. So sometimes people want to be able to have a really deep conversation with you where they share a lot of their thoughts. And some people are more interested in kind of having some more privacy and a kind of a quick, here are my few ideas, and call it a day. We want to respect all those different ways that people want to engage with us and give them options for that. Next, please. So one of the engagement tools that we're in the thick of right now is about a meeting in a box. So what these are informal meetings that anybody here can host themselves. You don't have to be a steering committee member or an elected official to do it. We're inviting everyone to host a meeting in a box. It's a kit that the consultant and the steering committee have put together that gives you everything you need to host your own discussion with family and friends and be able to provide some feedback to the town to inform this next phase of our project. It might look like having a few neighbors over for coffee or going out and grabbing a drink or having a chat while you're walking your dogs around your neighborhood, and kind of jotting down the discussion topics that the kit guides you through. So we're really encouraging as many different people to host this, and then the people who participate in your group might consider hosting their own. It's really a way to try to reach a population of folks who wouldn't necessarily come to town hall for a meeting or want to listen to me talk for 45 minutes about comprehensive planning, right? We're trying to reach people who wouldn't always be interested by that type of an event.
Can I
Go ahead. Mr.
maybe it's the same question, you go first, Mr.
Oh, having run a few, we had a group over on a Saturday evening where we sent out the pizza and so forth, and And I've run a few sessions at the senior center, and it's actually a very fun exercise to run because people like to talk about Norwood. And it gives them an opportunity to talk about the things that they like, things that they don't like, things that they want to change. But the exercise at the beginning where people are just brainstorming on those places in Norwood that are meaningful and special to them is such a good way of kicking off a meeting like this. And it really, actually, once you've done a couple of them, they're fun to do. In all honesty, yeah, they're fun. Mr. Lane, I'm sorry.
No,
that was your comment.
Along the same lines, we had discussed, I think, about trying to reach. It's great that some of these events, like the open house, but it was a lot of people that go to all of those types of events. So I think this is great, and the response has been good, right?
The response has been good. It's
Yeah.
been a little bit slower than we had anticipated. So I think our phase 2 timeline is likely to be extended by a month or two. I think what I'm seeing with the meeting in a box in particular is that it's very slowly picking up steam.
Yep.
People hear about it a couple of times, or they need to warm up to the idea, or it takes attending one to want to host one, right? And so you get that sort of snowball effect. We have not gotten the engagement numbers we were hoping for at this stage, which is probably why I'm laying it on so thick that we need everybody's help.
Yeah.
But we are starting to see these trickle in, and the responses are fantastic. It's really fun to see, the kind of diverse views and what's special to people.
Yeah,
in
and you're
Norwood.
probably reaching people that you might not normally.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. that's the goal.
We've been up at the senior center 3 times, and Pat Chick has been very helpful by bringing some materials, and I've been amazed at the amount of participants, seniors who have participated, who will take one of those packages and they'll go and meet with a friend or give it to a friend. So it's sort of infectious, and once it gets going, which is a great thing.
We've had some neighborhood groups submit them. We've had some boards and committees, submit them. We've had folks at the senior center provide them. We had one that was like a local moms group that submitted one. We've had a couple of classes from the high school who have done one in their social studies classes who have submitted them. So we're trying to keep this going and really hope that everybody will consider hosting one of their own.
I'm hosting a neighborhood one this Saturday for my neighbors. It should be fun.
Local dads?
Next slide, please. Another way you can participate is our community survey. We have it online. It's the same survey online and the paper version. There are drop boxes and stacks of the paper versions at the library and the senior center, but they're also available in our department as well. The link to the survey is on our project website, and also one of those QR codes on that poster you saw earlier does direct you to the survey. So that's a way to participate that affords a little bit more privacy. It's a little bit faster. Next slide, please. And then the last engagement opportunity that is kind of our big push during this phase is a crowd map. This one's kind of new. I don't think Norwood's done something like this before. It's an interactive mapping tool online where you can kind of zoom in and pick parcels and drop pins on the map to reflect, again, this is my special place. I want to see this preserved and protected. I'd like to see this area improved. Here are my specific ideas that I'd like to see Norwood. So it's a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more visual way to be able to provide feedback. You can also see everybody else's ideas. It's a work in progress. You can kind of like it or upvote if you see somebody else's idea that you really like. So again, that has its own link on the poster, and it's on our website as well. Next, please. I actually have some updated numbers since this slide was put together, but this just kind of shows how we're tracking engagement. We're looking at participation points. Note that that's not the same as individual distinct people, because one person might take the survey and also come to an open house. And we are counting those as separate participation points. It's points of contact. The goal that was set by the steering committee was a 10% goal. So 10% of our total population was the numerical target for participation points that we were hoping for over the entire duration of the plan. So as you know, we are just starting phase 2. The updated number of participation points is 558, so slightly higher than what you see here. We've received a number of additional responses to both the crowd map and the survey, and this was before meeting in a box responses started coming in. So we are just under 2%, and we're hoping to get to 10%. So like I said, we're a little bit behind, I would say, but I think the responses that we've gotten so far are fantastic, and we're definitely making progress.
Ms. Graham?
Thank you. In terms of throwing out other creative places to try to reach people, I'm only thinking of it because they were just here. Have we thought about stuffing something in one of the light bills? Because that'll reach a lot of people.
We have, we're monitoring our budget. Printed materials, there's a cost. And since we're early in the process, I think that's a discussion that we still want to be able to have. But it's a fantastic idea, and obviously there's no better, I think, kind of opportunity since there's so many points of contact there. So that's something that we'll definitely be talking about more at our next meeting. Great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sad?
Sarah, congratulations, great job.
Thank you.
This must be taking a lot of your time away from the town hall. I got a question, Mr. Chairman. How much do we pay for this study of this consulting group?
The town meeting article, I think that that they approved was 250,000 or 275, can't remember.
250, and that was for the whole process, plus if there were additional planning processes that we needed during that, if we wanted to do a corridor study that wasn't related, but our staff's time was otherwise so occupied. It was consistent with what other communities our size are paying for it.
It just seems like a waste of money, but that's my take. I think when you look through this package about South Norwood and the English-speaking people down there, it's kind of a tough thing to see, being from South Norwood. I think the mortgage and things like that, Norfolk County is the richest community in America. We have Needham, Dover, Brookline. We have a lot of rich towns around us. Norwood's a blue-collar town, from bird roofing, the factory, 7 factories had in Norwood. I just think that we're spending a lot of time for the future of Norwood. For 150 years, we've gone in the right direction. We're one of the best communities in America. And I hate to see all the work being put into this, and I appreciate it's a lot of work, but it's just hard to see how much work's going into it, the budget the way it is. And you look at this purple map of South Norwood, and it's always the bad section of town, it seems like, the depressed section of town. And it's a little tough for me to swallow. I didn't vote on it, and I wouldn't have, for 250,000. But it just seems like it's a lot of work for the direction of Norwood. We should be talking about the amount of apartments we're putting on Route 1 or some other corridor of Norwood, and the amount of apartments we're putting on these big 3As and stuff. It's killing Norwood. The crime's going up, the traffic's going up, everything's going up, and I think people see that. And the old people aren't going to do a survey, unfortunately, of what they like to see the future of Norwood. Their future is at the end of their future. It's the young people, I understand that, but Norwood's a very dense community. There's really nothing like Norwood mixed between the commercial and residential background, and it's just hard to understand that the amount of work that, unfortunately, you're putting in the whole committee, and we appreciate it, but it just seems like a lot of work for what we're gonna get out of it. You really can't change a town, the dynamics of it. We have Route 1, you're not gonna change that. South Norwood, you might change that a little bit down the road, and the uptown center with some apartments and commercial mixed buildings, but it just seems like a lot of work and spent money for 10 years out, what we'd like to see the town look like, where our town fathers have already decided that 150 years ago, and we've got to a good place.
Mr. Sad, if I could correct you on one item, we've engaged in a master planning process just about every decade from the 20s through the 90s. We, for some reason, stopped about 20 years ago, but in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and the 50s, we were engaging in planning processes. We were doing it as early as the 20s. The whole design of our center and the layout of our parks was we would call it a master plan program now. Back then was the result of comprehensive planning. It all started around the turn of the century with the change of the charter. So just be aware, we have been engaging in formal planning for
No, I know.
well over 100 years.
But the South Norwood, we had a study back in the 80s, 90s, nothing gets done per se, other than a few little things being changed. It just seems like, in today's dollars, it just seems like a lot of money spent that people
for the town, what they're getting back in return. That's all.
I think one of I would disagree, Mike, as well. I think that
Yep.
one of the things we put forward about 2 years ago for a comprehensive plan was a recognition that every town surrounding us had a plan or a vision of how they wanted to see their town develop over the next 10 years. And we lacked that because we didn't have a process like this that really went out to the community and got public engagement and public input regarding what do you, as a resident of this town, want to see Norwood develop over the next 10 years. Norwood is going to develop. When I proposed the article to town meeting, my frustration was that the town was developing without a lot of input from the community. You had folks coming in who wanted to develop this, do that, and we didn't have anything to kind of like say, this is what we as a town, what our people in our community want for development over the next 10 years, whether it's housing, whether it's economic development, whether it's open space. We have these small plans like you've described, the ones for a master plan for South Norwood or the central business district. We don't have one comprehensive plan that reaches out to the whole community and looks at every area of the town and all elements that Ms. Dixon described at the beginning to really produce a document that we as a select board or the planning board can have at hand to provide to them guidance when development does happen, and they can judge developments that come down the pike that are consistent with our input, and then there are other developments that may not be consistent with that input, and we have the opportunity to reference that to say, that's not what we wanted to do as a community. So that was sort of the impetus regarding the town meeting vote from November 2023, I think. Yeah.
If I could add on to that, Mr. Chairman, just, it's important to note that a community can say they more or less want to stay fundamentally the way they are. Because to assume that we're not gonna change, that's by choice. If you wanted to be as dense as Cambridge, we could change our zoning and we would have skyscrapers, we'd have whatever you want. We could be as dense as Cambridge and Somerville if we wanted to. I don't hear that from anyone in town that we wanna be as dense as communities like that. So we set out to make sure that's not the direction we wanna go in. To your point, we can't go back. I know some friends of ours like to think of Norwood as this bucolic little farm town, and I don't think we've been a bucolic little farm town for 150 years, but a community saying, you know what, we mostly want to stay the same, we want a little bit of growth here, maybe a little bit of change here, that's all part of a planning process. Otherwise, what we've been engaging in for the better part of 10 or 15 years is little hits here with zoning, little hits here with zoning, and we heard a lot from residents that this zoning is good, but how does it fit into everything else that we want to do? And rather than look at it on a project-by-project basis or a small area by small area, try to tie it all together. And if it comes out that we want to sort of continue this middle road that Norwood is, we're not a farm town, we never will be, and we haven't been for since long before any of us were alive. We're not going to become a Cambridge or a Somerville, but we're choosing not to be, because we could if we wanted to. That's important to say that this is where we want to go.
No, I understand, but you know, you're talking when the government throws 3A at us and 40Bs and 40Rs, 929 Washington Street, the heat shield, and we're giving them apartments on 90% of tar. That's my contention. My contention is we're giving them certain ideas, and as each project comes available, these things have no grass, they have no open space, very few of them give us what we're looking for, and we're always doing surveys for it.
Well, again, the idea behind the master plan is to have a comprehensive master plan that relies on the community input to guide future decisions. So if you believe that we didn't have that in the past, this process will bring us forward in the future to have that kind of input. That's the whole idea of the master plan.
All right, okay.
If I can just say maybe one more question, if that's fine, if other input, we're 5 minutes
Nope,
behind
yeah,
in our
let's-
appointment, so, but Ms. Grow, go ahead, we'll continue.
I'll keep it short. I just wanted to mention for seniors, it's really important for us to hear from the seniors, because there's the old saying of, you're planting a fruit tree, even though you don't get to eat the fruit, it's about the people that'll have the tree afterwards. And a lot of seniors are worried about what's life in Norwood going to be like for their grandkids, or will their grandkids even be able to come to Norwood, or are they going to be priced out? So I think that the input from seniors, like, yes, you might be in the winter of your life, but your feedback is still highly, highly valuable for the future.
No, I know, but they're hanging on for dear life with their electric bill, their water bill, their taxes. They're holding on for dear life right now.
I think what Mr. Sad is saying, he wants to make sure we focus on the needs of our seniors today as well as the future. Certainly not assuming because
Yeah.
seniors are at the end of their lifespan that their opinion is not as important.
Nope.
He wants to make sure we keep a focus on the seniors.
That's right,
that we
Mr.
have,
Manager.
which we certainly do through a number of the
Yeah.
programs that we offer.
That's why I've conducted 3 sessions at the senior center. We'll do some more in the future. Mr. Plasko or Mr. Lane, any questions? Well, thank you, Ms. Dixon. I think we'll have another update down the line when the community inputs is towards the end, and you'll be welcome back here for another update at that time.
Thank you so much.
But thank you very much.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
So we are running a little late at this time. We'll bring in our 6:45 appointment. I believe that the Old Parish Preservation volunteers are here this evening, and apologies for running a little late.
That's quite all right.
How's everybody tonight?
We're fine.
Thank you.
We're fine.
Well, welcome, Patty.
Thank you.
Why don't you introduce yourself and your colleagues?
As everyone knows, I'm Patty Fanning, and this is Leslie Powers and Kate Allendorf from Old Parish Preservation Volunteers. A few of our other members couldn't make it, but here we are.
Thank you. And I understand that you have an event coming up in recognition of the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War?
We do indeed, we do. So this is our busy season coming up. We start our, just if everyone isn't familiar, Old Parish Preservation Volunteers, our mission is to fix the Old Parish Cemetery, or take care of it. So we clean, reset, repair the gravestones. Our work days will begin on April 26th for 5 weeks. We call them days. It's 8:30 to 10:30 on Saturday mornings, and anybody who's interested can come by and volunteer. And that leads up into Memorial Day. And this year on Memorial Day, we're also become part of a nationwide program called Taps Across America, where we will be playing taps at the cemetery at 3 o'clock. It's supposed to be done at 3 o'clock on Memorial Day, local time. So we will have someone at the top of the hill playing taps on Memorial Day to sort of close out Memorial Day. So that's a first for us on there. But before all of that, on April 19th, we are sponsoring an event. As you've probably been hearing about in the news, it's the 250th anniversary of Paul Revere's ride and the shot heard around the world at Lexington and Concord. And it's a Saturday morning, so how perfect could that be? And I think what a lot of people aren't aware of is that that event did not happen or did not affect just Lexington and Concord. It happened here. And in South Dedham, now Norwood, 60 men responded to the alarm on April 19th. They mustered in Dedham, and then they were dispersed along the route that the British took on their way back to Boston, so that they fired on the British in retreat. So there were 60 men who answered the call, and 20 of them are buried in Old Parish Cemetery. We thought it would be good to commemorate that and to honor them. So we have put together a program. The Colonial Board, beginning at 10, the carillon will ring the bell of alarm, and then the Colonial Boys will lead a procession into Old Parish Cemetery. The general manager will speak. We'll have a little ceremony. The general manager will speak. The director of volunteer services will speak. We have 2 students from 5th grade in the Cleveland School who will be reading an abridged version of Paul Revere's Ride. We'll have flowers on the graves, and just sort of honor these men. We're also visiting several of the elementary schools, probably all of them, to the 3rd grade and the 5th grade, because they're the ones that teach about the Revolutionary War, to sort of get them excited, and hopefully they will come and process behind the Colonial Boys and make it a really sort of fun-filled family event. So we hope everyone comes out and lines Central Street so that the Colonial Boys can march down Central Street into Old Parish Cemetery with the children following behind.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I think it will be fun.
Comments, questions from the board? Mr. Lane?
Thank you, Michelle. This is great. Thank you as the parent of a 5th grader who's very much into this. We'll be there, and thank
Excellent.
you. Thank you for putting this together. It's really wonderful.
I think it will be. I think, well, and it's also educational. I think, people don't realize how far-reaching that was, how
Yeah.
well organized all of these Minutemen were, that the alarm sounded all the way back here, and they dropped everything and went.
Yeah.
They were between the ages of 17 and 58, the men, and they just took off.
Wow. Great. Ms. Gerber?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I just wanted to express gratitude. I think events like this in the community are really important. It's one of the things that makes Norwood feel like a community, is getting to come out, with your neighbors and celebrate the town history and people that really went the extra mile for the community, even so long ago. So I really appreciate that we're doing this, and thank you very much.
No, thanks.
Mr. Mizuko.
Now, Patty, I think I was reading something recently that the shot fire that was heard around the world, they only did that once they heard the guys from Norwood were coming, right?
Absolutely.
All right, we have it there in the record. That is now the history.
Norwood is coming.
They heard Norwood's coming and they decided to move forward. All right, that's good for me.
It's now time.
If I intend to watch the parade, I assume I should not wear a red coat?
You should not. It would be preferred that you not wear a red coat.
Duly noted. Great. Mr. Fett.
I want to thank you all for your time and excitement about this project and how much you've done over the years. And I have the same, I don't know if you remember, I had you as a teacher 25, 35 years ago at the junior high for a night school. Were you teaching up there then?
No.
Oh, it must have been some other Fanning.
What was it?
Newbury College?
Yes, I was.
I remember you. You had the same excitement that you're having tonight, so.
Did I?
Yes, congratulations and thank you. And that's it, Mr. Chairman. I never forget a face.
Thank you.
Did I give you a good grade?
You did. I thank you.
That's why he remembers you.
That was a
Thank
long
you.
time.
It sounds wonderful. Thank you for not only for the leadership on the event of the 19th, but all the work you do for Old Parish is really wonderful. You've turned it into such a wonderful community space. It's in the comprehensive plan meeting in the box. It's been mentioned quite often and as a special place to many folks that attend the meetings. So
Oh, excellent.
thank you very
Yeah,
much.
it's been our pleasure, and it's been very gratifying.
To finish all the gravestones?
No, we haven't finished all of them.
When they walk up?
We are getting within sight of that, though.
10 a.m.
I think so.
We really
I'll
are.
double check.
We have some
Pretty soon
large
we'll get you
ones
some nice
that were
looking
broken.
gates up there, too.
Yeah, well, they're coming.
They are.
I saw the redesign, and they're really
Yeah.
great.
It's just taking time.
Yes.
Thank you very much
Okay,
again
thank
for
you.
your time and for the information.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We have 2 minutes before our next appointment, so why don't we turn to new business and get a couple of items taken care of. We'll go to 4.3. 4.3, Norwood Recreation Department glow-in-the-dark egg hunt. Submitting request to hold a glow-in-the-dark Easter egg hunt on Thursday, April 17th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. for less than an hour at the Shattuck Park. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carries 5-0. We'll move on to item 4.4. Norwood Recreation Department Ferry House displays at Shattuck Park, submitting a request to display 6 to 10 ferry houses on the evening of Monday, April 7th, 2025 at Shattuck Park with a rain date of Tuesday, April the 8th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
And seconded? Eusborough, did you second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Great. Why don't we do one more? 4.5, Bond Street Tot Lot request. Clayton Cheever, Director, Memorial Library, submitting request to use the Bond Street Tot Lot for an outdoor story time every Monday from 9:30 a.m. until 10:30 a.m. from June 23rd, 2025 until August the 11th, 2025. Motion by Mr. Lane, seconded by Mr. Plasko. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Why don't we invite our guests in for the 7 p.m. Appointment? Good evening. Hello. This is our appointment with the Anti-Scam Task Force. Welcome. Why don't
don't I ask Ms. Grow, you're a member of the task force, why don't you introduce the members of the task force?
So we actually have some slides to go with the presentation here.
That's great, okay.
So this isn't the whole task force, this is just some of us, and then if we page to the next slide for me, Tony, thank you. So as you can see, we have a collection of many different folks from the community, both internal, like staff, and then we also have some experts from, say, one local bank who deal directly with people that have been impacted by scams at the banks, or we also have our members of the Council on Aging or members of the Norwood Police. But I actually prefer for people to introduce themselves, so give you some face time.
All right. Kathleen Rooney is the chair of the task force, and I work at the Council on Aging.
Dee Carney, I also work at the Council on Aging, and I'm a member of the task force.
Darshana Merchant, I'm the outreach librarian at the Memorial Library.
And I'm Amy Sawchuk, I work at one local bank in the town, member.
Great. And then Tony, if you want to page ahead, I'll go ahead and let our chair speak to a lot of the timeline of how the task force has evolved since the first founding. You each have been given one of our pamphlets that we have for residents. It contains a lot of different tips for them on how to stay safe and who to contact if they do find themselves in a situation that they need help with on a scam.
All right. Thank you. I want to thank the Board of Selectmen and Mr. Mizuko for inviting us here tonight to talk about the progress we've made with the Norwood Anti-Scam Task Force. The task force was started in June of '22 after our town manager decided that we wanted to try and figure out how to prevent our seniors from being scammed. So we created the task force, and the first thing we did was to go to some trainings and do some research and see what kind of scams are out there. And we found that a lot of the scams had the same characteristics, the scammers were using the same tactics. So we decided we were going to create a brochure to talk about just that educate people. Who are the scammers? What are they saying to you? What are they doing? How can you react to them? And that was one of our first things, was to create the brochure just to educate our residents. As far as, watching for certain signs, like they're talking very fast or they're demanding immediate action, and asking you to be secretive and not tell anybody that you're talking to them or going to buy gift cards for something. And we created other materials too. We created our logo so that when we do send out information, people will recognize that it's the task force. We have a postcard that we sent out over the holidays in our first year that tried to warn people not to buy gift cards for other than gifts. That a lot of times the scammers will say, you owe a bill and you need to pay in gift cards, and legitimate businesses aren't going to do that. And we also made up some posters to distribute to some of the local businesses that do sell gift cards, to ask their employees to kind of educate them on, if somebody comes in very nervous and buying hundreds of dollars worth of gift cards, there could be something wrong there. We also have a web page, and that can be accessed through the Town of Norwood website. And it has information, it has our brochure, it has different links to legitimate agencies like the FTC to get more information. We've presented our Scams 101 presentation at Morrill Memorial Library, at the Senior Center, and at Benchmark Senior Living. In addition to talking about our brochure, we have education from one local bank, Amanda Grove, representing the Board of Selectmen, and the Norwood Police Department with Detective Sinclair. We have an email address that's not obviously monitored 24/7, so it's more for information. But if someone thinks they're actively being scammed, they need to call the non-emergency line of the police department. We have translated our brochure into 4 languages: Spanish, Portuguese, Haitian Creole, and Arabic. And right now we're in the process of reaching out to leaders in those communities to try and do our presentation there. In the future, we have a couple of upcoming presentations. We've updated our Scams 101 presentation, and Thursday we're presenting that at Morrill Memorial Library at 7 p.m. And we're going to present that at the Senior Center at a date to be determined in May. And we're also looking to create a presentation on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So I know Amanda will talk about some of our successes, but the things that we've seen, we do know people are paying attention. I think all of us have probably had someone come up to us and say, "Can you look at this email? Look at this text and piece of mail." And does this seem like a scam? We've also referred people to the police department that have been involved in romance scams, and the police have been able to walk them through it and have them realize they're being scammed. And we've also had success with bank tellers, questioning people when they're going to take out a large amount of money, and questioning that and preventing that. So, did I miss anything?
No, I think so. Yeah.
Do you have any questions before I turn it over to Amanda?
I think you're good to go.
Okay. Thanks.
So one of the things that we learned really early on in our process was that we were noticing that while reporting of scams was sort of leveling off, the rate of losses was continuing to exponentially grow. And so here in this chart, the number on the left is millions for the amount of reports, and yet the number on the right is billions in losses. And this chart is from 2023. And so we kind of dug in and thought, why is that happening? How come the reports are flat? And what we found was people were starting to get pulled into scams that they would feel embarrassment about. So just feeling like they had been tricked, and then sort of suffering in silence after someone had managed to either get into their account or convince them to do something that they didn't want to do. Tony, if you go to the next slide. So we found that the FTC actually has a system that we can access to see when people are reporting it, what kinds of scams were happening, and which were the most common and what demographics were being targeted. And so we could start to say, okay, then that's how we need to tune our educational track locally to help people understand how they might be targeted and what ways it'll happen, and also to help lower the stigma of talking about it. 1 in 5 people, and this is still pretty consistent, 1 in 5 people will be the victim of an imposter scam. And so if everybody is keeping that to themselves, then the scammer goes on to hit the next victim. And so if this happens to you, you're the victim of a crime. This isn't, it's nothing wrong with you. These folks, they are trying to trick you, and it's not your fault if it happens. So in the next slide, one of the things we also found was we had a lot of data about how many scams we're having nationally, and this data I've updated for 2024. We had how much was happening in the state. We even had how much was happening in the region, but how much was happening in Norwood. And we felt it would be important for us to start trying to improve our benchmarking to understand, was Norwood higher or lower or around the averages we were seeing in the wider region, state, and nationally. So that meant we had to start working. Our detectives are very good about going and refining the way the scams are getting reported to us, so that we could better say, no, not just that it was a scam, what kind of scam, what kind of techniques did they use? And then it could be really expensive for us to try to get really precision tracking around that. So we decided to go with the more cost-effective way of approaching it, which is math. There's formulas you can use to, if we know the big numbers, then we can extrapolate down and predict, well, how much should we be seeing technically in Norwood, and are we higher or lower than that prediction? So in the next slide, you can see an example of in 2023 in Q4, the amount of imposter scams. Per the formula, we would expect to see between 12 and 42 scams in Norwood, and then the data that we were getting back from the detectives was that we had 14, which is right in that range. Now, it was a little towards the low end of the prediction, and one of the things we wanted to make sure is how much of the reporting is just not happening because people are embarrassed and they're not coming forward. And so we wanted people to start getting used to the idea that we talk together about it. If it happens to you, it's not your fault. And let's really start getting these reports so we can catch these folks. And the next slide. So this is some statistics that have been provided by Detective Sinclair. You can see how many losses that we're having in terms of the actual financial loss to Norwood residents in particular. And also, what are some of the scale of the losses? For example, we had one loss where an individual person in the community lost $300,000, right? And that's devastating. When you talk about a senior that's trying to make ends meet, if they've been sitting in silence after being scammed, and then they're still trying to afford their basics like they're, anything that we're trying to do with them, that's going to be really hard, and then they even don't feel like they can come forward about it. We know that our businesses also get targeted with scams. It's not just our residents. We had 17, and then we also know that for relevant to our interests, more and more people are trying to pose as government officials or as law enforcement to try to either scam somebody into making a payment or to try to access systems to try to get in to ransom hardware or to harvest information to then marry that information with wider data breaches. And then obviously gift card scams, as we talked about, we continue to try to educate people that if somebody is telling you you have to pay a bill from the town with a gift card, we do not do gift cards. And so just that education piece became really important. In the next slide, I won't read all of this text for you, but one of the big takeaways here is that we have also worked to make sure that we have a recourse so that we can actually help people better than we used to. It used to be when a scammer would trick someone and get them to give them bitcoins, it was gone. It was just gone. They do it because they want to be untraceable. But by partnering with international organizations and with other communities overseas, now we're getting to a place where our detectives can actually sometimes run down the scammer, even if he's not in the USA, and claw that money back. And so we really wanted to get to a place where people don't feel like if somebody's scamming me or texting me, there's just nothing you can do. There is something we can do if we work on the problem. So I'm happy to field any questions. If you need an extra copy of the slides today, we're happy to provide that as well.
Questions, comments from the board? Mr. Lane?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Selectman Grote, and thank you for the work that you're doing. I think one of the things I was thinking about while you were presenting this information was sort of that shame element, especially as the romance scam that you had called. I imagine if someone sort of was online talking to someone, they turned out to be a scammer, that can be embarrassing, but I feel like the approach that you're taking is great, and sort of the openness and the welcoming that you're doing, because I think that eliminates maybe some of that shame, and we can get more information from people who might not have given it to us previously, and obviously combat that in the future. So I just want to say, I think that your approach is great, and it seems like a really great group, and I'm really glad, Mr. Mizuko, that this is something that we do in town, because I'm not sure every town does this.
Right.
Yeah, so just appreciation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Sen?
Great job.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if Amanda, you or them have the answer on some of the scams we've heard over the last year or two on chimneys or contractors and roofs, and is there like a lot of them? And that number, that's a big number for Norwood.
So those do happen. Typically the way they play out, the most common symptom that it could be a scam is someone will come and then quickly start doing some work already before you've even asked them or given them permission to. They're like, oh, here, I'm starting to work on the driveway. And then they just dump the materials and move on and never finish the job. And we've definitely seen that happening. So we've been trying to stay in front of, hey, what are the latest ones that they're trying? Because we've seen the driveway one, we've seen the chimney one. But by far, the more common ones we're getting is the phone calls. People trying to do phone call scams with people, either, claiming that they've got their, grandchild in jail, or claiming that they're calling from a government agency and that they have to correct some documents. So we've really been trying to classify all the different kinds and sort of monitor each of the rates. And that's been a process. It's honestly the biggest part of the work is just taking the fire hose of the scams and sorting and putting them into the buckets.
Yeah, they're relentless. I've got calls every week and every day, and it's sickening.
Yeah.
But that's it. Thank you, and keep up a great job.
Thank you.
Mr. Plasko?
Thank you. I don't want to repeat the things you have said and pointed out too much, but I probably see these scams myself 3-4 times a day.
Yeah.
They come on the phone, they come on the text, they come on the emails.
Right.
And if people aren't careful, I think today, I would think we'd all be smart enough to say no to everything.
Right.
My first response, I do nothing by the mail, I do nothing on the phones, I mean, online, send me something, and I'll consider it. But the thing is, most recently, I saw up there, you had scammers posing as government officials or government agencies or whatever. And just a couple of weeks ago now, I started getting texts saying that Easy Pass.
Yes.
And I, of course, immediately said, the state's not trying to collect Easy Pass over a text.
Yeah.
So, but I happen to have recently lost a credit card that was used for my account. So I said, oh, I have to go in and check it, maybe it possibly has something to do with that. So I went in, and the very first thing at the heading of their webpage is, it's fraud, it's a scam,
Yeah.
don't believe it, it's not us. So it's affecting everybody everywhere, and you just have to say no and be careful about everything. And good work, and thank you very much.
One tip about that particular scam, sometimes when you get the text, if you look on your phones, a lot of time at the bottom, there's a little link there that says report, report junk or report scam. You actually do want to be clicking that. I know it feels like it doesn't do anything, but what that's doing is it's feeding the data that the FTC and those of us locally are using to react to what's going on. So click those reports.
I was going to say that sometimes these people are, that speak to you, they're only asking, or even the message you get, they're only asking for something simple to avoid, small amount of money or something to avoid a large loss. And people who maybe don't have a lot or a lot of other people to rely on might get scared and do that. But they're not even after that little bit of money. They're after the information that they get once you send that to them. And so please, say no, do nothing.
Yes, Mr. Plasko, your story is reminiscent. I had, my 25-year-old daughter was visiting just last weekend, and like most 25-year-old daughters, kids, they have their phones like infused on their hand, but she carries a credit card that I have, and I ask her to make sure she lets me know when she's putting charges on it, so I'm familiar with it when I get the bill, and she started talking about this Easy Pass.
Yeah.
And what did you do? Well, I used your credit card. I said, okay. I went right to the phone and canceled the card, got all of it taken care of. So, buyer beware. And this is really good work. I'm going to give her this brochure.
Absolutely.
It's probably a good idea, too.
That's honestly, even though our effort started with seniors when the original charge was done, but what we've learned is young people actually fall for scams more frequently because they're more impressionable, they don't know as much. And now the scammers have figured out, well, what if I use the young person to target the senior? And so we really, it's a whole community effort.
It's amazing. I recall, I'm sorry, Dee, go right ahead.
So I was just going to say the other important thing is that the majority of, if not all of the people that we have come to us having been scammed in a vast array of ways, have all been previously vigilant to it not happening. They have been proactive in stopping it, but they've got every single one of them at a vulnerable moment in their lives. And the vulnerability, sadly, then feeds into the shame, the desire not to tell anybody else. And that's the bit that we really want to push through, is the stigma. Because it's so vast, we're not going to be able to really make a dent in it unless we're all talking to each other and we're all telling each other how they got us, how they tried to get ourselves, our neighbours, our grandchildren, our children. But we got to, the stigma and the reporting and the talking, we've got to make it as normal in our households and in our neighbourhoods as it has become in our lives. I just thought it was important to say that. Yeah.
I recall that one of the last monthly reports that we had with Chief Bill Brooks here, and I think he was giving an overview, and this, you kind of put context to the comment that he made at the time, was that the most significant crime that he was seeing rising in Norwood was white-collar crime. And this is white-collar crime in many ways, and I'm so glad that you are partnering with the police department. Those statistics were very eye-opening in terms of the impact that it's having on residents in Norwood. So thank you for all you do. It's really good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
All right,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good evening. All right, I think we are now just about on time for our 7:20 appointment with Clayton Cheever from Morrow Memorial Library. Good evening, Mr. Cheever. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
Good, good.
I have goodies, so let me unpack my bag.
All right, yeah, we're hungry.
Unfortunately, these will reap in a couple of seasons. What I've brought is sunflower seeds from our seed library. These are courtesy of Moose Hill Farm.
Nice.
So,
Tony doesn't need me, I'm gonna take his. He doesn't have a, he doesn't have a gathering.
It doesn't have a plot, doesn't have a plot.
thank you. But you didn't get the label, I apologize.
Oh, all right.
Thank
Thank you so much. I have some more if you'd like them to.
Oh, well, thank you very much. All right. Well, welcome,
Thank you.
and thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So, as you know, we dedicate a portion of most every meeting to have department heads in here, and looks like it's your turn at the bat. So, when you're ready and able, we'll
Sure.
go give you a report.
Well, so I brought a few things just to kind of tell you what's happening at the library right now. To go with the seeds, these are from Moose Hill Farm. We were donated a whole lot of seeds this year, so we have, anybody who wants to come by can pick some up. They're just inside the door. With our seed library, so I have lots of things to kind of pass around. I just kind of brought one of each so we could pass them around, everybody could look. But if you can talk amongst yourselves, if there's one you're coveting, I'm happy to leave them with you. But if you want more copies, we'll have to get them back at the library. The seed library is in its second year. It's a project we are doing in partnership with the planning department and the conservation department. And it's going really well. We've had some great seed packing parties. We had lots of people take the seeds last year. We have over 75 seeds in the collection this year. And it's people are bringing in seeds to donate. It's a real community building thing, which is really fun. And it's a nice partnership with our native pollinator garden, with the Friends have supported the planting and sustaining. This will be the third season, third summer we're going into that, which is really exciting. And just a great way to support, how do we take our part when we have natural spaces, we can enjoy them and we can see all sorts of, reap all sorts of benefits, both for ourselves, for the creatures about us. So, super excited. There's some extra seeds here for you as well.
Oh, he loves God.
There you go.
Thank you.
These are, what are they? They're
Let's work
Mongolian
on that.
giant sunflowers. Every month we put together a calendar. So I brought the March because we're just on the cusp, but we're still putting the finishing touches on the April calendar. But I brought a copy of the March calendar and then some of the things that are coming up. I thought I would just pass this around in case you're not familiar with it. Tony, I'll just pass things to you if that's okay. We have started our annual spring musical Sundays. We had one concert last on the 16th with the Unlikely Strummers. We have some exciting concerts coming up. We have Ricardo Parra, Chilean singer-songwriter, who's just amazing. He's playing this Sunday. Somebody who I actually know from some various circles and work I was doing before I came here is Fanny Laura, who's going to be presenting a program about classical works by trailblazing women composers from Cuba, Argentina, and Colombia, which are folks that we don't often hear their musical contributions. Excited about that. That's on April 6th, and a couple other concerts coming up. They're all free. We do ask people to make reservations to come to the concerts so that we have enough seats for everybody.
Is this in the Simone room?
It is in Simone, exactly. If you ever struggle in here to remember who's talking in front of you, you may want to come by just tomorrow night. We have Never Forget a Name with memory expert Neil Cutson. I may need this because I find myself even referring to remember Neil Cutson's name. I was looking at it, but this should be a really great event tomorrow. I'll just kind of read through these and then pass them around. You can look.
What's his name again?
Neil
Sorry,
Cutson. There you go. Maybe, hopefully we'll see you then. I hope you will all join us for Norwood 101. That's happening in just a couple of weeks. I am very pleased to personally invite all of you to join us. I know Tony will be there. And we're going to have many other department heads and community organizations and representatives from departments around town to talk with both our newest residents and anybody who wants to learn more about how Norwood really works. It's something we've been doing, how many times have we done this? I think this is like the 9th time. Patty Bailey is the organizer really behind this and has been doing it for years. She's great, and it gets a lot of support. And it's not only great for people to come in and learn. I've talked to people from various departments who really appreciate the opportunity for networking. As department heads, we get to see each other pretty much every week, but other members of our departments don't necessarily. We're doing the work of the town, so it's really nice to have an opportunity to talk to each other.
Clayton, is there any room? Is it booked already in terms of booths or how we're?
I'm happy to look if you'd like to come.
Okay.
We can look at spaces. I do think there is still some space available, and we'll squeeze you in. We'll make it.
Oh,
work.
I'm not even saying for me. Just if there's someone else.
Just in general.
If there's an
Yeah.
organization that's watching the meeting or hears about
I
it.
do believe there's still some space in the. We're just figuring out the tabling and how it's going to work, but I do think it's so we have. Nonprofit organizations and people doing kind of community-based work, but not, businesses are
Right.
not welcome. Businesses have given contributions. We have some gift certificates that we'll be raffling off, and we welcome support from many partners throughout the community.
About the comprehensive plan group, are they gonna be there, do you know?
I'm sorry, the strategic planning folks?
Yeah.
I've been talking with Sarah and Alex about it. We have a poster in the
It seemed
front
like a
and
nice
a representative.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea,
Yeah.
particularly when you bring in new residents. Yeah.
I know that there's another meeting scheduled that same night, so they're doing their best to have some people there, but we're all trying to cover a lot of ground, so if they can, I know they will be there. They want to. One of our librarians, Heath Umbright, worked on a national campaign with the American Library Association called MediaWise, and we are now having a monthly series on being MediaWise, exploring issues around fact, opinion, and bias. And the next one is happening on Tuesday, April 15th. Heath has gotten a lot of recognition around the country for this work. It's really exciting, and we had a really nice turnout for the first one of these that just started last month. We have a senior plan consultant with Blue Cross Blue Shield coming to talk about planning for Medicare. On April 17th. We have a great program that Darshana, who I know you were just talking to, organized with our own Joseph Collins, the Economic Development Director, and Tom O'Rourke from the Neponset Valley Chamber of Commerce on a series on entrepreneurship. So this is the first of an ongoing series, which we're really looking forward to. I was talking to Joe, and he was just delighted to work with Darshana, and I'm hoping we had a really great turnout for that one. We've had a fabulous turnout of support for our sensory-friendly program. So I brought just one sample, which is a sensory-friendly Lego club. This is a Lego club for adults. If you aren't familiar with the whole sensory-friendly movement, it's for people who are cognitively, developmentally different and just need additional support. Maybe thought of, we might make other people uncomfortable or themselves be uncomfortable if it was not a neurally divergent accepting gathering. So we have people from all over the region coming for these. We've actually added more sensory-friendly programs because of how much positive response we're getting from the community. It's really been exciting to see. We also have other movies. We do sensory-friendly movies, and we have a Monday matinee film series, which is also great. It's a fun time. We do in the afternoon because it's a good time for folks who maybe aren't interested in going out in the evening. It works sometimes for more of our senior folks, but a lot of people who are, perhaps they're looking for employment, but would like some kind of distraction in the middle of the afternoon. There's a lot of people who enjoy seeing a movie, especially a free, more recently released movie. Brought copies of our strategic plan. I want to make sure you all have this and know how we orient all our work. We're doing this because it's grounded in what the community knows that we are going to be able to be most effective at making a difference for Norwood. So it's grounded in this. I just wanted to make sure you all had a copy. So you don't have to take one if you already have one dog-eared copy, but if you could use another, I brought these. And then the most exciting thing in the last couple of weeks is working with some architects on a long-awaited project. And this is a sample of some plans that I just got yesterday, which I can pass around to look at, but this is my only copy, so I need this as the working copy. This is the group that is going to be doing the water penetration testing. If you go through it, I'll pass this around, you can see there's some photos of some spots that have been damaged over the years, which is why the Capital Outlay Committee recommended and town meeting approved funds to paint, and now as we've been going, it's more than just painting, it's repairing the underlying problems. This company is going to come in and, weather dependent, next Monday they will be doing some interior work. So there's a couple spots where they just need to expose some parts of the wall so they can better understand construction and be ready so that on Tuesday they're going to bring in a lift. You may have seen this on the front page of the record. They're going to be throwing a whole lot of water to simulate a massive rainstorm when we've experienced water infiltration before. And they'll be prepped so they can see exactly where the water is coming in and give us a plan so that we can mediate and stop having, incurring damage when we get those kind of rainstorms. It will take place on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They start at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, so we're hoping that they're working on the places that could be most disruptive to use of the library, which I don't think is going to be very disruptive at all, but we will be doing anything that has that potential, hopefully before the library opens is the plan. The only thing that could get in our way is we obviously don't want to spray a bunch of water at an old building and then have it freeze and expand. That would be really bad. So they will not do this work if the temperature over the 3 days is going to drop below 35 degrees. And I've been watching, and it's still right at the edge. We may get some cold weather next week, so it's possible we'll have to push it forward a little bit. They will be patching, once they do the work and have done all the testing, they will be coming in and patching the publicly viewable parts that they had to take down on Monday. I'm going to leave, there's some stairwells that are staff only, that I'm not going to worry about patching those unless there's a compelling reason to protect the building. I don't want to patch too much because I'm afraid that if we patch it, we'll lose the evidence of what really needs to be fixed. So that's really, I'm really excited to be getting this work done. We walked through all day yesterday, and we had a whole bunch. We had a hazardous material testing. We've had all sorts of consultants. So there is a stack of goodies to go through.
It's all for me.
To share, but please, it's up to you how you like to treat everybody else in the room.
I don't need that.
I put the power in your hands. That's a quick overview of some of the stuff that's happening.
There was a lot to digest there. Thank you. It's always a good indication about how busy you and your staff are with all these programs. It's just a great place to visit and to participate in all this programming. I went to the Trails Committee overview a few nights ago. Very, I think we almost had a full house there.
We always get a good turnout for trails events of the Trails Committee.
Great. Okay. Any questions, comments from the board? Ms. Grow.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention the Impact Norwood student ambassadors were telling us that the seed packing parties have been really popular. They find it very kind of relaxing. It's like something you do with your hands, but it doesn't take a huge amount of concentration, but then you're also helping because you're getting all the seeds ready, so it's just been really popular. If residents are interested in donating seeds to the seed library, are there any restrictions on what kinds of seeds the library is accepting? And then is there a certain process that you want them to use?
That's an excellent question. I would recommend, we have a lot on our website, so I would recommend that they start by looking and reviewing. There's also great advice if people are trying to figure out the best times to plant the seeds. They can just go to the norwoodlibrary.org and it's /seed-library, and there's some information there. There is information about how to collect and save seeds there, which obviously collecting them in a proper fashion so we don't harbor mold or start sprouting prematurely. So that's a really important part of it. And there are some links to websites as well. As far as contributing to the seeds back, that is something that we did in the fall, and there will be more instructions as we're kind of in that harvesting time again. So I think the best, I would touch base, check out the website, they can give us a call, they can come by the library and talk to us. That's really the best way to get involved with doing more. We obviously are working with lots of community groups to do the seed packing and everything else. Darshana who you also just saw, has been a large part of that as well, so she'd be a great resource if people are familiar, and I'm sure she'd be happy to talk to everybody about it.
And then I just also want to commend the library for the support that they've given to the SCAM task force in terms of getting literature out there for folks and helping people understand, and then being a space where we can have public forums for people to come learn about it. So it's just been really valuable, and I just wanted to thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. It's obviously something that's super important that we do our best to protect the community and increase. Something that we're always talking about is how do we increase media literacy. I think that ties right into how are we wise about people trying to take advantage of us through the information about us that's out there. And we can mitigate the risk through increasing our own awareness. So
thank you.
It's a real pleasure to be able to work with them.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Saad.
First time I've met you, congratulations. I bet you they're feeding you chocolate out there in the hallway, huh? You and Patricia. But keep up the good work. Just if you're gonna close anything up on the library, make sure they spray it for mold if they do any work, if you close anything up. But other than that, keep up the great job.
Thank you.
And if you need anything, don't be afraid to call Bill.
Clayton, do you need these back? I take it.
Yeah. I need the plans. Everything else I can leave. But the plans
I thought you would.
Yes, I'm not going to leave the room until I get those back.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, sure. Thanks as always. I've been lucky enough to have this presentation a few times. I knew you were going to bring some good stuff, but I really appreciate all that you do, and your staff are always great. My kids go to the library a whole lot, and it's just a great resource in town, and I think the diverse range of programming that you provide is really something special. So thank you so much for what you do and for your staff. I know you're
I'm
always.
super proud of our staff.
Yes, you always say that, and I believe you.
It's the truth. It's the core of what we do. Our
Yeah.
people really, we have an incredible building, we have a great collection. Anybody can acquire great things. To build a great team takes incredible people, and I'm really proud of the team we have together.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed with, you talking about this project and how into the details you are. I mean, you're obviously taking ownership of the place where you work and your staff work, but I think that's great to see that level of oversight and interest in this project, because you know it's going to affect the future of what you do and be able to continue to do it. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Cheever.
So if I could,
Mr. Plasko.
thank you for coming and sharing. I think a lot of us know that there's a lot of good things happening at the library, but not everyone in town does, so I think this helps give a little exposure. So it might be an extra night out, but I think it was worth it for your library. What are we currently offering for hours on weekends for the residents?
I'm glad you asked. We are open on Saturdays from 9 to 5 and on Sundays from 1 to 5. And looking at the statistics just the last 2 months, the busiest weekend, the busiest day we've had were the busiest 2 days we had this month were this last Saturday and Sunday. We hosted Art in Bloom, so we expected, but when I say busiest, it's not just people in the door. I'm counting how many books we check out, check in, how many holds we're placing and filling. And those, looking at those per hour, this last weekend were the busiest days of the entire month. Before this weekend, it was other Saturdays and Sundays this month. Same held true in February. We know we have a lot of people in Norwood who are really appreciative of the hours on the weekends that we're open. It may not sustain as the weather gets nicer, that's to be seen, but the last couple months especially have been very heavily trafficked on the weekends. And we really appreciate the community support.
Do you know how that compares to the libraries in the other towns? Are they open on the weekends? Or?
Not every library in Minuteman is open on Sundays. A fair number of are. We actually have great support from the town to stay open when we have extreme weather events, when it's super hot or cold. I see a lot of other libraries, and I mean, I'm not trying to disperse our partners in the network, but we typically are. Well, I don't remember the last time we closed, honestly. It's been quite a time. And I see other announcements when people are closing. So I think we offer comparable and better hours than our neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other final comments, questions? Thank you, Mr. Cheever, for the update and for the information and for the seeds. Thank you so much.
Yes, enjoy the seeds.
Good to see you, Blake.
We won't let you escape without getting these. And then here's the other.
Did anybody, I did bring a couple extra packets, man, next to you, so.
I'll take an extra one. Yeah, thanks. Would you like any seeds?
Thank you. Okay, would you like some? Okay. If you'd like some, we don't have fun.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think item 4.2 is next. Does the board want to take a short recess since we know we have a longer meeting, or do you want to keep?
What's the pleasure of the board? You would like to take a 5-minute break?
I'd make a motion to take a 5-minute recess.
All right. Do I have a second on Mr. Lane's motion to take a 5-minute recess? Mr. Plasko, all in favor? All opposed? We're in a 5-minute recess. We'll return in 5 minutes. All right, we are now back in session, and we will continue the meeting agenda.
At this point, we are still in new business, and we're going to handle item 4.2. This is the water and sewer budget for FY '26. Mr. Mizuko, would you take the lead on the discussion of the budget proposal from water and sewer?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Consistent with some of our financial practices the last year, we handle the utilities a little bit separate. We tend to ask for approval after the general government budget because the indirect charges on those two utilities are reflective of whatever the general government budget comes in at. So the board has before them the expense budget for water and sewer for next year. There's no significant changes. As you know, the staffing level overall for this department, the core group as well as what supports it, has remained the same. Really, the increases come from the increase in what the MWRA charges us for water and for sewer treatment, as well as the application of our capital projects, which is the line in the debt service line there. You'll notice we have the revenue projections at the top, but remember that we don't really approve revenue projections. We approve expenses, and then the final rate analysis for whether or not a rate increase is needed this summer is based on where we are and what the actual rate increase needed to reach the expense budget is. Just to call out a couple of items, I know a few questions I got from board members. Some of this is new to some of you. That line, that it's both an expense line and a revenue line. It says Sharon Emergency Water Interconnection. 6 or 7 years ago, we signed a deal with the town of Sharon to allow them to have an emergency interconnection to our water system. The requisite work for them to achieve that was about $1.5 million is what the DPW identified. So we borrowed the $1.5 million to do the work. The town of Sharon pays us back annually. I actually think we make a little bit of money on it, given the overall expense, but they pay that to us to cover the cost of that, and then a little bit which we get on top of that. And you'll know there's also an item in there for a high-strength charge. That's both a revenue and it's an expense in the general cost. The MWRA charges us that high-strength charge. We have one client in town that is a high discharge client. So it appears as a revenue, they pay a separate charge for that, but there's an expense for it as well. And then you'll notice that we're finally able to book a little bit of investment revenue consistent with where the market has gone now that we have a segregated fund. The fund balance is still obviously a concern, as it always will be, but earlier with Light, when you heard about a year out from when we approved some inter-fund borrowing, that might be something we can do down the road, but this segregation of our accounting practices to meet best practices has so far been helpful in the broadband and electric side, and it'll eventually get there on the water side. But there are no other changes significant other than adjusting for debt service for projects approved this past November and our annual increase from the MWRA.
Questions from the board?
Oh, you can go.
Mr. Plasko?
Thank you. Am I missing it, or do we not calculate in any kind of a reserve? We're trying to build up reserves. We only hope at the end of the year there's a profit and that becomes a reserve. Are we actually trying to budget some and put it in there?
Sure, two answers to that question. First of all, we always hope, even when we budget it, it's always hopeful. It's the last item we would take in, because remember that, and I'll show you the line in just a minute to get to the quick answer. Remember that we project what we're gonna sell, if you will, and we project what we're gonna take in, and the weather has a significant impact of that. So we could say, hey, our expenses are generally fixed. We think we're gonna spend $25 million this year. We know we need to take in a little bit more than $25 million to make sure we balance. We could very well take in $22 million. We could take in $29 million, and that sounds like a really good year, and then the following year, the rates start to go through the roof. If you look at the bottom line under total O&M, it says fund balance contribution. That's
Page
the,
you on?
oh, thank you.
Right here.
Oh, okay.
And it's important to note that without a healthy fund balance in the water sewer fund, if we run a year where we run into the red, that money has to get made up somewhere. We don't carry a loss on our books, we don't carry negativity on our books. That number would come out of really free cash is how you close a deficit. You can't do that until you set your tax rate. So if we're off 10%, which is likely, that could be $2 million or $2.5 million. That would come right out of our free cash of the following year. In past years, we just absorbed those losses and we would absorb a gain when we got it. But it's one of the reasons that we had very bad free cash numbers for a long time. And it's bad financial practice and it's bad financial accounting. We never want to raise rates more than we need to. But on the other hand, not managing our system in a financially feasible way is the worst possible thing for ratepayers. And remember, ratepayer, taxpayer, we will always have to cover these costs. So it's about making sure we cover them as equitably as possible.
Thank you, because I want to make sure we had that there, and I didn't quite catch it. Thank you.
Mr. Lane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rizzuto, can you go over, is this the appropriate place to talk about indirect costs? Could you just give us an overview of that and sort of the definition, how that works?
Absolutely. So all the costs to run the light department have to be borne somehow, whether it's the sewer ratepayers that pay it or the property taxpayers that pay it. So your indirect costs are what the water sewer system should pay for their portion of the use of town services. We do the same thing on the light side. So that's just like a grant that has indirects. What are the indirects? Well, accounting spends time doing their budget.
Or like they talked about like HR, treasurer.
HR, the treasurer and collector, the big ones, a little bit of some of the office time. So we do that to make sure that the water sewer rates are accurate and that it's recovering the full cost to operate the utility. Because if it's not covering its full cost, that money still comes from somewhere, and it comes from the property taxpayer. And it's not equitable, that's not good with the tax levy. So we calculate, based on some industry standards, a percentage of different offices, anywhere from between 5 and 10, and it's gonna be relevant to if it was a standalone company, this is roughly what they would have. Now, water sewer pays, and I'll explain why in a minute, to the general government and indirect for those shares of the treasurer's office, et cetera. It also pays the light department an indirect. And the reason it does that is the light department handles the billing, so the utility has to pay for another utility taking up its billing. Now, the Department of Revenue requires us statutorily to treat all of the indirects as a revenue to the general fund. Just the system they set up a million years ago because it's the way it works. So when we go to balance our overall budget, you'll have, property taxes, excise, local receipts, blah, 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 all these numbers. And then there's a number that says indirect. And that's what they pay to the general fund to cover those costs.
Yeah, and that's a revenue on our side, that's what you're saying?
It shows as a revenue to the general budget, yep. And the delta of where you charge something to the enterprise or to the utility fund versus whether it becomes an indirect is truly whether it's a cost for that fund. So as an example, there are 6 employees who are water sewer employees.
Right.
The fund pays for them, but they pay a portion of engineering and DPW administration as well. We would have those engineering and DPW administration employees one way or the other. It's the same thing on the light department side. They pay.
Wait, can you say that part again? I'm sorry.
Sure. So the utility pays for its direct costs, which are the 6 employees that work for it,
Right.
as well as a portion of, for instance, the DPW administration. That's where that delta of what's a direct versus an indirect cost. The light department, it's the same system. They pay their health insurance directly. It's a $500,000 number. It's quite significant. They pay their pension costs directly. That is a direct cost to the utility. And then over here are the indirect costs that we would otherwise likely have, but their portion, overhead's probably a better term than an indirect cost, but we use an indirect cost methodology. It's a net zero game in a sense. So it's the town gets $600,000 over here, but it's coming from rates. It's just about doing the accounting properly, which is always the good thing to do. It's always the best thing for the ratepayers and the taxpayers. And candidly, rating agencies they're always looking for something else to try to justify their existence. They're starting to look more and more into your accounting practices and make sure that you're doing things correct, which we were told several years ago, and we were told to correct our accounting, and we have.
Okay, and I think you were actually not at the last meeting that Jeff was here, but and they had talked about the rate that we charge back to the town being. Can you explain that piece?
Sure. So we pay a lower rate. We've always had an irrigation rate for our municipal fields, and we have a rate that's higher than that and lower than the general rate that the town charges itself for municipal buildings and school buildings to make sure we're not sort of double taxing ourselves and, sort of grabbing from one side and just dumping it onto the other side.
Yeah.
Because in essence, if we pay that full rate, what we're saying is the taxpayers pay...
The rate that the MWRA is charging us?
It's not exactly that. It's a different delta of that. I mean, some towns charge off their own costs entirely, and they don't ever pay any of them. It's not really a equitable way to do it. So we assess that rate. That way we're not saying to taxpayers, hey, you're paying it over here, you're paying a portion of the treasurer's office, and by the way, you're paying a fully burned rate that also includes that same portion.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Mr. Bazzucco, I'm sorry, Mr. Sad, go ahead. Could you just update us in regards to, on the debt service line, at what point are we to pause the water relining project and then take on I believe the debt for SRF funding for the water tanks?
Yes, possibly 1 or 2 more years out. Mm-hmm. We're waiting to get the exact debt repayment for the water tanks. What we would do is we would have a fall where we didn't borrow for one of our linings to absorb that debt. I don't think it's this fall, but it is likely the next fall, because remember, what we approved this past fall
hits the rates this July. What we approve this coming October, November will hit next July. It's probably the following year that we wouldn't, and then the year after is when we believe the SRF payment will hit. If we're close, we would get an authorization and simply not do the borrowing and not go forward with the work if they said, nope, it's actually gonna start here versus there.
And then we would just push out I think it's a 10-year program for water relining, we would just push it out to like 12 years or?
Correct.
something
We're
like that?
thinking 1 to 2 years of pausing that to absorb the potential rate increases of having to deal with the paying for the water tanks. Now, there's a couple of options we'll have at the time. Do we build that rate increase in slowly? So let's say it's a 5% increase, and I'm just making that number up for the purpose of discussion. Do we decide to do that ahead of time at 2.5%? So it's, a 4% one year and a 5% the next year, rather than, hey, great, it's 2%, but then we're going up 7%. So we'll have some decisions to make there about what's the most fair and equitable outcome. What we have in the fund balance will also determine if we can reduce rate increases, pay down rate increases, pay for more capital out of the fund balance. There's not enough in there now. Maybe we can buy a truck or something in the fall. But if we ever did have a healthy balance, that's when you have a decision to say, okay, we had a really good year. Well, what do we want to do? Well, pay cash for some capital so you don't have to raise the rates, or, avoid a rate increase and spend some money down to transfer out of the fund balance to cover some of the costs. We're not at a point where we have that flexibility. We'd like to get there where we have that flexibility.
Thank you. Mr. Sad?
Mr. Plasko stole my paperwork, so out of my
Oh.
memory. No, you can keep it. No, is the one for the emergency for Sharon, is that a 10-year window?
I think it's a 10-year bond. The deal will go in perpetuity. I forget what number of years we signed it for. If they have to trigger it, they do pay us for the water. So the water's not free. I believe they'll pay us 20% above the wheeling rate, and they're responsible for maintaining the connection. We had to do about $1.5 million worth of work to get the project done, to be able to make sure we could handle it. So we got $1.5 million of lining free, I don't use the word free, that we had the town of Sharon pay for.
Are they paying us the one up there, the 150 or the 170?
They're paying us the $150. So
So that'll
we
keep going out.
Yep, we
All right.
told them this is the cost and this is the projected debt cost. Where we came in a little bit low, so we're making a little bit of money off it. And I will say, of all the municipalities we work with, the town of Sharon is hands down the easiest to work with. The first year we did this, we didn't collect the payment from them. We had to call them and say, hey, we didn't actually collect the payment. They said, yeah, we're just waiting for you to ask, and they sent us 2 years of payments at once. So they are just a phenomenal municipality to work with. We share the energy manager with them. It works just great. They're a very, very good partner.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was dropping off or whatever it was. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, I
Chairman.
think maybe
Thank you,
5 more
Mr.
years at this
Sack.
point, 4 more years.
Any other questions, comments on the water budget for FY '26? Mr. Plasko?
I would just point out, go back to, you have it right in front of you, but I'm just repeating it out loud. The report from Jeff, that if we approve this budget as it is, it's projected that we'll probably need a 4% increase in July. We're not approving that 4%
Correct.
increase at this time. We'll reevaluate it, maybe more or less with some information that comes in the meantime, but that's projected so we know what we're approving, what the impact may be. It's a 4% increase projected.
That's the data you'll be using is the,
On the rates, a
yeah.
4% increase of the rate.
right,
current
from
rates.
March to May data that will be, the report that will back up whatever the
Right, when
increase
they
projected
come
will
in
be.
later and give us an update, we'll
Yeah.
actually vote that. Right now, we're just voting
The
Just for the
expense
budget.
the
budget.
operational budget itself.
So on that question, so far, I know that last year, one of the elements that affected utility rate collection was one of the larger manufacturers in Norwood represents about almost 10% of our water usage. And I think, I haven't heard anything, so I suspect that operation has not had the similar slowdowns or shutdowns that they had year and a half ago.
No, they've been consistent, at least certainly at least the last 6 to 9 months, with fewer shutdowns. They're so big that I think that we calculated out it's probably $8,000 to $10,000 a day that we probably lose for every weekday that they're operating that they have to stop for some reason. That's been helpful. We've done some great work at getting meters updated and sort of finding some meters that weren't some commercial ones that weren't transmitting correctly. So I think that'll help us going forward. There's no bucket of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, but those are all helpful as we try to mitigate the impact to the average residential ratepayer.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mizuko. Mrs. Adams?
One more point, I guess, is a good point, Mr. Chairman, is Do we monitor that like every month, the usage, and kind of just keep an eye on that one company?
We do. And they monitor as well, but they're,
Yeah.
as I always say, if they were
Making
to
sure.
pack up and go out of business, and I don't have any reason to think that's gonna happen anytime soon, we would be,
That would be a problem.
Yeah.
we'd be in,
That
for
would be a
quite a few
problem.
years, we'd be in a world of hurt.
All right. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
And if there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion for the water and sewer budget for FY '26.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sad. All in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's 5-0 carried, Christine. Great. Back to the agenda. We are working our way through here. Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sorry, just a thought. We do have Lisa, our HR director, here to discuss the vision insurance.
Yes.
We're almost there, but I don't know if you want to.
Why don't we go to, yes, in recognition, we don't want Lisa time to be wasted in that corridor. Come on in, Lisa. We will go to item number 4.12.
I'm really here just to answer any questions.
Right there. There's the answer chair, if you will.
Answer chair.
So, item 4.12 is continuing discussion from our last meeting for visit insurance, and also we also have a PEC agreement 4.13, which is related. So, Mr. Mizuko, why don't you tee off the discussion regarding 4.12?
Absolutely, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Proposal from staff to add a vision insurance option for employees at no cost to the town. We've provided a couple of questions the board had at the last meeting. One, is there any cost? Is there an administrative cost or overhead cost? And we've gone back and verified with our vendors, there is not. One of these plans actually provides us with a $7,500 credit. Not that that's why we would do it, because that's not significant in the grand scheme of things, but there's no cost, there's actually a credit. We have provided the board copies of the actual plan options, and HR, working with our, we have an insurance consultant that we use, looked through the plan, selected the one that they felt is best for employees to be able to have the option with. And I think those were the only questions the board had. The other one related to just clarifying that it is in the, what we call our PEC agreement, which that is the agreement that governs health insurance with employees. So we've met with the PEC, the Public Employee Committee is called, and we've worked that into the agreement. So if you're going to approve one of these, you do have to approve the second one, otherwise.
They go together.
Otherwise it still wouldn't matter in the sense, because anything, all insurance is a permissive subject to bargaining. So any bargaining unit during any negotiations could bring up money for any item that they want to, and that's completely consistent with the law. Authorizing or allowing something doesn't give somebody an in that they don't otherwise have.
Thank you. I'm so sorry, Lisa. Lisa, you are the HR director. I apologize for not properly introducing you, but thank you for coming. If everybody has opportunity to review, we have two memoranda before us. One is the addition of vision insurance for town and school employees with the plan details attached, and the other one is the actual PEC committee agreement making reference to that addition. So why don't we take staff memo number 1, the addition of vision insurance for town and school employees. Are there any questions about the information presented in the memorandum?
Sure.
Mr. Plasko.
No, I would just say that I had the questions, and after answers, I had a couple more questions, and over the weekend, people were kind enough to send more information to me and make everything nice and clear. And I'm now personally satisfied that it meets answers those concerns so that there aren't any, and that it otherwise is would be a good practice and a good thing for us to offer our employees, and to get things going, would make a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Lane. A motion to approve vision insurance as presented. Please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. The carried 5-0. Second is, you're right, Mr. Mizuko. If we go with vote number 1, vote number 2 is necessary as well. The vote here is the approval of the PEC agreement with the additional reference to the vision insurance noted in the agreement. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Mr. Sad makes a motion, seconded by Mr. Plasko. Any discussion on the motion to approve the PEC agreement?
I think the only question we had was vision. We just took care of that.
We
so.
did. So, all in, yes, Mr.
On the
Mr.
motion,
Sad.
I was just telling, asked somebody over here that everybody's wearing glasses in here. How are we gonna not go with it?
You know, I have to confess, I'm wearing them because I had cataract surgery recently, and my vision is blurred for reading for the time being.
Well, at least the majority rules.
There we go. So we have a motion.
just letting my
It's
LASIK
been
fail.
seconded. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah, it's 5-0 carry. Thank you, Lisa, for coming in. Appreciate it.
Do you have any other questions about it?
I'm sorry they asked you to be here.
I'm thinking of a question just to make your trip in here worthwhile, but it was nice to see you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks, Lisa.
And of course, in the interim, I have lost the agenda. Here it is.
4.6.
Oh, thank you, missed it. This is 4.6. This is the 4th of July Celebration Committee. This is for a light bill insert, submitting a request from the 4th of July Celebration Committee to insert a flyer into an upcoming light bill requesting donations for the 4th of July celebration. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Seconded by Ms. Grow. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. Moving on to 4.7. The town use request. This is the annual Pride Picnic. Submitting a request to use the town common for the annual Pride Picnic on Saturday, May 31st, 2025, from 4 p.m. until 6 p.m., with approximately 60 attendees expected. A rain date of Sunday, June 8th, 2025, from 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. is requested. May I have a motion?
Motion
Mr.
to
Lane?
approve.
Ms. Gross seconds. Is any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. 4.8, car wash, Norwood High School boys hockey. Submitting a request to hold a car wash at the municipal lot on Saturday, July 26, 2025, from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Seconded by Mr. Lane. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, carries 5-0. One day, the 4.9 and 4.2 are for two separate days. A one-day liquor permit submitted by Hometown Arcade. Before I bring this any further discussion, I'm going to open the floor for Mr. Plasko with some information that you wanted to present to us this evening.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss 4.9 and 4.10 together. It's with regret that I have discovered and need to report to the board that I believe there's a little bit of dishonesty in these applications to the board. When I saw Norwood Youth Hockey Banquet, I recalled a past incident where this establishment looked for a license for an event regarding that organization, and when contacted, found out that they were not having any such event, that a small group of some of their members were going, but not the organization, and that nobody had requested anything to do with beer and wine. So, remembering that, I thought it was strange to see this on the agenda again, and I contacted the representatives from Norwood Youth Hockey, who again confirmed that they have no such banquet, no such event planned. Therefore, that raised the eyebrows a little more, and contacted by email, which I have the printout of here, the president of the Walpole King Philip Youth Hockey, and asked him the same question, of which he said there is no such event that he is aware of. And when I went further into why I was inquiring, he said, well, it's youth sports, so no need for beer and wine. It's as simple as that. So they have no such organization either. This organization is obviously being dishonest and fraudulent in their applications to the board, and I feel they should clearly be denied. And if there is to be any additional requests for them in the future, they should, maybe you'd want it handled as a separate motion, but my thought is that if they're even gonna make an application in the future, it should be accompanied by a letter from whoever they are saying is requesting the beer and wine license, that they in fact are interested in having that, so that we have some confirmation and not just take the application from the establishment, because if it's theirs, I would be voting personally against all of them based on this information. So I guess I would try to move it along by making a motion to deny 4.9, 4.10 request. And I don't know if you want to handle those one motion or
Why don't we
separate.
separate them, get through the motion first. Mr. Plasko's making a motion to deny 4.9 and 4.10. Mr.
Second that.
Sav will second it. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Lane?
On the motion, I agree with your sentiment, would vote in favor of denial. Maybe this is something that we can explore to sort of avoid this situation in the future with anyone else that might be holding an event at an establishment that doesn't have a license and require some sort of confirmation from the sponsor or whomever it may be. So I think it would be worth looking at. Just, across the board, just one extra piece of paper. Sorry to put more work onto you, Christine, but might be helpful to avoid this.
I mean,
It doesn't have to be just this organization, you're saying.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, to that point, it makes sense. I understand where you're coming from. If they were dishonest, then people are going to continue to be dishonest. I mean, they could ask for a liquor license. They could ask for a one-day liquor license just because they want to have a one-day liquor license. So
Right.
they seem to be coming up with.
And they have recently, and I voted against them, if you recall.
Right, but I wonder if, we can do that. We can say, well, provide proof that it's for an event. But they could come back and say, we just want to have a one-day liquor license. We're just open this time. We want to do it.
Yeah.
Which we've done for some other businesses. Usually it tries to be like, is there a reason you're asking for a one day,
Oh.
not just doing
I
it?
think
But
what I tried to say is I will be voting against them.
I think,
But at the very least, I would hope the board would require some more of them.
I think your opinion on the matter is clear. We can always ask for some confirmation from
Yeah, I see
a group, but a business that's
If it
holding a
just
little
wants to
event that
have a-
says,
yeah, right.
I'm holding a little shop and wine or whatever. They're one and the same. This is a unique situation because they're attempting to justify the need for the one day by saying they're specifically hosting this group, and then that group saying, no, they're not.
Yeah, no, that makes
Maybe
sense.
it's a little just massaging next time if they were to come through and say, well, we have all these events going on, so we're busier than normal. We like to do one. But they can do that. They're well aware of that. I think this happened before, and we sent them a letter
Yes.
stating, like, if you want a liquor license just one day, just because you want one, let us know, and the board will review that and decide on the merits. And I'd have to look and see where we could find that, but I'm pretty sure they've been told this before, that don't cite an event and say it's for an event if it's not for an event.
Yeah, if you think
Yeah,
there's-
couldn't they?
So I guess I agree, but it seems like they're
Yeah,
just.
no, I
you know.
understand. Why couldn't they just ask for one straight up?
They should have, but they
Right.
didn't, they
They
failed.
did not, right.
Yeah, I remember there was one, I don't know, within the last month or two, and I pointed out that other establishments might be looking for it similarly, and they go against my personal philosophy, whether those organizations should be having a license. But to just keep granting them without it being for a special event is kind of supporting that. So that's why I personally was against them. But this is slightly different, this is a lot different.
I guess on the motion, I think we should be sending them a letter and saying, prove that they sent this out, because if they didn't, that's a huge no-no. And I think that we should send them a letter saying, it's coming to our attention, and how can you prove it? There's gotta be some legal thing that we let them know on record that they're doing something.
I wonder if this, so to the other challenge to that, and it's not a bad idea, I think we
Yeah.
sent like a letter of reprimand last time.
Yeah.
I'll have to check the file. Anyone can apply for
No, I know.
anything and be sort of a little bit sketchy when they apply for it, if they did. So, I would, maybe what this time to do is we should send another letter that we should remind them. And even though it doesn't really go to the ABCC, but maybe the board should send a letter to the ABCC just saying, hey, we're getting these, this is the second time we've gotten a request for a one day, we have denied it, based on the fact that it's apparently on,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think
Doesn't
they-
go to the ABCC, that's totally a local.
I think you just want to alert them.
Okay.
Ms. Grow?
And I don't think there is, but I wanted to ask about it. Is there anything that we need to react to if you have an organization saying, I am submitting this application in the name of some other entity, but that other entity never asked for it? Is there anything further we need to do with that piece of it? Like if I were to go around claiming that, just think of an organization in town and Amanda went out and said, the so-and-sos want such and such, but they never made that request. So is there anything that we need to intervene on that?
To tell the organization,
maybe? That's what I'm
I
asking.
mean, they sort of know, to an extent, that's more of a civil matter. I mean, it's tough for the board to take any type of civil action if your contention is that the board has received fraudulent information. You're denying the application based on you believe the information is fraudulent. We would likely do the same, because it's not a crime, right? We would likely do the same for any other type of application that comes before the board. Hey, this is not, it's illegal, it's misleading. I mean, there's no license to pull, there's no penalty, it's not like it's a liquor hearing. You'd always report it to town council to see if there's anything that they would want to do, but I don't know, you're attempting to defraud a government agency, but I don't think it would go anywhere.
well, they kind of know, these two organizations at this time know, because I've spoken to them. I know the last time, I don't know if they ever followed through or not, but the representative that I spoke to the last time from the Nuggets was involved in the small group that was gonna go, that wasn't the formal Nuggets organization. And he had indicated he was gonna be speaking to them because they didn't like that. And they didn't, they were actually concerned that if something went wrong, could they possibly be tied into the chain of liability if it was their event and so on and so forth, and they could probably prove it wasn't and get out of that, but you have to go through all that hassle, and maybe expense with a lawyer or whatever. So, yeah, they were upset about it, but not a lot they do either, I don't believe.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think this Christopher Crone, he's on both of these
Yes.
applications for Walpole and Norwood.
He's like the manager
He's the business manager.
Of Hometown Arcade.
Yes.
But why don't we have attached to this the filing from, like to use the common, the letter from the Norwood Nuggets and the Walpole Youth Hockey?
That's what Mr. Lane was saying earlier. Do we require that? The challenge is in some cases it's not going to be required, so would that prevent, this is a unique situation. Do we go overboard to prevent what appears to be something fraudulent?
Basically it comes down to, do you think they're worthy of, responsible enough to be granted a license?
Well, that was my next
I'm
point, to
saying
the
no.
next level, but on this level of future ones, if they're submitting all these to us and we don't know that, and they're not, the organization's not knowing that, that's fraud. And if you don't submit a letter to it, the answer's gonna be no. I mean, just point of information, that's all. Good catch, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely, I concur. I just don't want to keep beating this point, but perfect example, like the Portuguese Club, I think sometimes has a thing for a wedding event or whatnot. Are we getting a letter from the priest or the couple getting married saying, I hereby certify that my wedding is actually on this day?
I really do love this person.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, copy of the vows. I get where everyone's going. It may need some time to marinate on what the solution
So why don't we just
is.
act on the motion to deny these two licenses and think about the rest later?
Yeah,
That's
so
all.
we'll just do the one motion that has been made and seconded, that is to deny the two one-day liquor permits submitted by Hometown Arcade. On the motion, all in favor to deny, please say aye.
Yes.
All opposed? 5-0.
Abstain.
Abstain. 4-0, 1 abstention. And we are now on to 4.11. Town Common Parks, Rules and Regulations. Any
Motion to
comments?
approve.
Yeah, I think so. It's
Very simple.
Second time on the agenda, so.
Yep.
Yeah. It's been
This is the second
moved.
time we had to do it
Yes.
twice.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Plasko, second. On the motion to approve Town Common Park Rules and Regulations, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's 5-0. Did vision insurance, did the PEC agreement, annual town meeting warrant, and yellow sheet. Mr. Mizuko.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have both the annual and the special. The board does not take any action this evening, still in draft format.
If you did want to approve the annual warrant, you certainly could. The annual warrant doesn't actually change for year to year, other than the content therein. The special is still under development, but you have an early draft, and we've been working towards the process. At a later date, your April 8th meeting, we'll have a final special warrant, and that will probably be the time, I believe the FinCom's coming in and CPC are coming in that night, that you would be taking positions that would go out. But if you want to get the annual done and sealed and sent off, that's ready to go. The special is still in the works, but there's an early draft
Even the
for
planning board articles, they
review.
only acted on certain, a couple of them last night, and didn't act.
Yeah, and there is one more possibly coming to fruition, so giving it that 2-week period would probably be best on the special.
But the annual is,
Yeah.
manager said, is cut and dried, make a motion to approve.
So,
and
motion
sign-
to approve
sign
the,
annual town meeting warrant.
it's seconded by who? I'm sorry, Mr. Plasko, I was jumping on your line there. You made a motion to approve and sign the annual town meeting warrant, seconded by Mr. Lane. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. We'll move on now to the special town meeting warrant and yellow sheets.
Really just provided for the board's information. There's really no action tonight. We're
Still
working.
working on what will be final versions.
Correct.
Yep.
But you have an early draft.
We have the early draft and
Early working
April,
draft. I think there's no action is necessary. There's nothing really to.
take a look at what we have, yeah. And so we would be bringing in for the 8th, it would be the Finance Commission. They are submitting articles in regards to reserves and free cash. We have the Community Preservation Committee also for their FY26 projects. I know the Planning Board, it seems like some of those articles are, I assume we should bring in planning as well?
Yeah, maybe the staff and the chair.
Yeah,
Similar with the
not the whole
FinCom,
board.
I know we talked about inviting the FinCom here, maybe you bring the chair in. I guess if the whole board wants to join, they can. They gotta post a meeting and all that. But planning is still in, a little bit in development, but I think we'll have,
It's articles from the school committee, we don't need that.
we can certainly ask the school superintendent to come in and explain those. Although some of them, I believe, are financial in nature anyway, that Jeff or I could probably handle if you wanted. But we had a good meaty meeting today, so we could have one in 2 weeks.
And
So table the specials.
so, yes, so we have the information. We'll reach out to each of the boards that, to invite them to our April 8th meeting for the conversation regarding the proposed articles, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
I'll just give a reminder for the next meeting. I talked about having all these people in,
Yeah.
but we do have a posted public hearing for an ascertainment hearing on the Verizon's renewal, so we'll have to work around that time.
Thank you, Mr. Plasko, for that reminder.
4.16.
So 4.116 is the reappointment of town treasurer and collector, submitting request to reappoint Mr. Alex Hagerty as the town treasurer and collector. We all have Mr. Mizuko's staff memorandum. Anything to add on this, Mr. Mizuko? You're pretty self-explanatory.
No, Mr. Chair, yeah, pretty straightforward. Alex has been with us 3 years now as the treasurer. By charter, the board reappoints this position every 3 years, and we recommend reappointing Alex to continue to work with us.
Very well.
I'll make a motion for the board to reappoint Alex Haggerty to a new 3-year term as the town of Norwood treasurer and collector.
Seconded by Mr. Sad. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Mr.
On the motion?
Yes, Mr. Plasko.
I know I had a concern of whether we would want to be reappointing or not. So I spoke with our CEO, CFO, and he was...
Sir, I'm busy enough. You can promote him. I gotta,
quite convincing that we had the right man and the right team, and we should keep it intact, so... And it wasn't when I said I had a concern, it wasn't about the individual or his performance. It was about whether, the way budgets are, do we want to fill the position, or was there some other way of dealing with things? But we've kind of decided to go slower to next year's budget anyhow, so with his confirmation that we want to go keep this team intact, I'm all on board.
All right.
And as the last statement in the staff memo says, this is for a new three-year term for Mr. Hagerty. So we have a motion. It's been, Mr. Sad made the motion, Mr. Lane seconded, is that?
No,
Think
Matt.
reverse.
Yeah, Matt made it, I
Mr.
seconded
Lane
it.
made the motion, Mr. Sad
My
seconded.
other senior member.
All in favor of the
Aye.
motion to appoint Mr. Hagerty to another three-year term, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Congratulations to Alex Hagerty. And now we are on to Board of Assessor stipend increase. Mr. Mizuko.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
turn it
Chair.
over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Consistent with the town charter, the Board of Selectmen sets the stipend for the Board of Assessors. So we haven't raised it in some time, so we're recommending the board approve a small increase to the stipend that the Board of Assessors receive, retroactive to March 1st. The monthly stipend is simply going from $431.52 to $458.33. We just generally don't increase this when we do a COLA because it's such a small amount to do it. We look at it every couple of years and bump it up a little bit to appreciate the field work that our board members actually do, our assessing board members actually do.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Grow.
Get vote going.
On the motion to approve the monthly stipend for Board of Assessors as presented in the staff memorandum, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah, it's 5-0 carries. All right, on to Miranda.
Motion to file 5-1 through 5-3.
Seconded.
All in favor of the motion to file, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's 5-0 carried. Mr. Manager, it's time for your update.
I will keep it short as we still have an executive session. Nothing for the board this evening. Be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
No, we talked on Monday. I think you had a good session with the task force that went well, as I understand from our conversation.
Yes, sorry, I should have given a small update, hospital update. The subgroups are starting to meet and it's starting to be productive. So we have our 4 sort of subcommittees. One has met twice, one will be meeting soon. The whole task force will be doing a site visit probably in the next 2 weeks. And then I did get a call from the Neshoba Valley Task Force looking to set up a joint meeting with our task force just to compare notes, if you will, which I think is a positive development.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Now, that task force is still meeting. They did have some success.
So it appeared
but
that they
not
did.
all, but-
They sort of quasi-disbanded thinking that something was happening, and then it turns out the deal between, I think, UMass Memorial and Apollo apparently fell
It
apart.
was for an ambulatory center and
In
emergency room.
Neshoba, Air,
Not a full
somewhere up
hospital.
there. Correct. The conversation I had with the state rep up there, they have a lot of the same frustrations we have had with some of the administrative hurdles in getting something done, is how I would describe the conversation. But I think collaboration always works together, so a joint meeting to kind of compare notes and let members get to know each other and hear what worked. I mean, I was able to hear sort of what didn't work for them, and we sort of built what we did on what didn't work for them. But I think it's good that they're excited about what we're doing and want to see how we can all work together. So our region is collaborating with the whole other region of the state. It's a beautiful thing.
You know what? That's good. It's disappointing to hear that they're having some frustration, though. I'm sorry, Mr. Mizuko. Anything else?
Is that okay?
I'm so sorry, Ms. Grow. Please.
Just a question, this will be a drum that will beat frequently, which is, can the manager remind everyone what is the website that we want them to go visit so they can let the State House know how important it is to get the hospital back?
finishthejobnorwood.com, and we want people to send in letters through the website. You can take the addresses down, they're at the senior center, and send them in by hand. You can pick up the phone and call. What we need to do is, people need to do it regularly, so add it to your habits. Have I sent in a letter this week? Because what the other task forces have seen is they had this initial swell of support and then went down like this. We would rather sort of go up like this. We're looking at more, what marketing items can we put out there, what banners and everything we can put out there, lawn signs, and we've of course got to find funding for all that, but it's to get the message out there to keep it consistent. This is a campaign, it's going to be lengthy, but we want consistent pressure on the state.
And then a follow-up question, is the task force ready for the board to start engaging some of the other boards
You-
of lobbying?
Absolutely, that can happen yesterday.
Great.
Yes, Mr. Assad.
Just, I guess, point of information, for all the seniors in our 12 towns, are we informing them to start piling up letters to the governor?
When you give us the donation, we're gonna start it. No,
I'll
I'm
pay
kidding.
for it.
Our senior center is gonna be coordinating that, seniors across
Perfect.
the 12 regions. Kerry is putting together her action plan and gathering her volunteers to coordinate specifically with that constituency. And we're doing that with a couple of other grassroots areas.
Yeah, a lot of the seniors have asked me they want to help out, how can they help out, and that'd be perfect stuff. for them.
Regular letter writing campaigns and
Yep.
phone call campaigns and asking businesses to send in letters and get the number for the governor's switchboard and call it every single day. Call it every hour if you want to.
On Ms. Grove's question about the board taking a role in getting out onto the select board circuit here in Norfolk County, we should just discuss that, think a little bit more. Is it what combination of people should go to those? Is it I'm thinking 2 board members, or could it be a board member and maybe a member of the task force? Maybe we can talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think if scheduling them would be and getting on the agendas would be
Yeah.
sort of the more important thing. Maybe we can put together a little team of folks who can do it and decide, do we want to bring a slide deck? Do we want to bring some handouts? It's really about getting it on the agendas, getting it on their local press, asking them, I mean, Walpole has, so we can meet with them and thank them for it, asking the other boards, have you sent in a letter of support to the governor? If you have, can you CC us on it? Because we're tracking them and keeping them
Sort
as
of an outline
well.
or a script to work from.
And for clarity, the reason I'm eager for us to start that, it isn't just to get their other boards active like us. It's because if we know that the Norwood Selectmen's meeting is one of our most watched meetings, as reported by the folks that report us, then that means in those communities, their meetings are probably highly watched too by very civically engaged residents. So that means it's a good opportunity to get in front of people who are likely to take action and to reach out to the governor.
Good point. Yes.
One more on top of Amanda's comment, Mr. Manager. I think if we could look at the task force for a rally in front of the hospital 2 months from now, or pick it before it gets too hot, and get all these towns rally, so we can probably start going in and talking to the different, I'm all in, to talk to these other towns, and we can split it up and just go and say, hey, listen, we need help, we need support, and we're gonna have a rally on this date, and here's our date, rain date behind it, and just get it going.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments on Mr. Mizuko's update? Thank you, Mr. Mizuko. Now we're moving into Selectmen's addenda. Because I feel so bad that I've been turning to the right so much. Ms. Grohl, I'll start with you.
It's an easy thing to do just because there's so many more, folks on that side.
Corner mirror.
There's a gravity where you don't want to turn. So the only thing I was going to mention is, now that we have final language on the board's goals and objectives, one of the things I wanted to double check is how would we like to retain that information, and at what pace do we want to be checking in on that document? We don't have to hash it all out tonight, but it's something that I felt that, we've done it, we've sort of checked the box and said, yeah, we have the goals and objectives. How are we going to keep maintaining that we're getting our goals done? And I can make recommendations, or if anybody...
And some of them need board participation, so we have to kind of farm that out to members, so.
Yeah. I mean,
Not tonight though, because we haven't thought about it.
Yeah, I mean,
That's why I'm just sort of surfacing it tonight,
Yeah.
for what's the long-term maintenance of that process.
well, I think it's more of an administrative thing, but we talked about this previously, and Lisa was here earlier. I have been meaning to reach out to Lisa so that she could help with, the board kind of administer the program itself. And I think one of the goals is to kind of ask for the HR director's assistance in taking those goals and objectives, putting them on the form that we developed last year, bringing it back here to the board, and then, kind of have, talk about sort of the periods of time where we'll have goals and objectives check in. Yeah. So I'm more than happy to make arrangements to Mr. Mizuko to just talk to Lisa about establishing that process. And that will give us a documented piece of paper that we can thereby work with the rest of the fiscal year, which isn't that much left in it when you think about it.
But, getting the rhythm of it going. And
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't, do updates on it any more frequently than quarterly. 6 months is probably fine. And it's just to, the goal of it is make sure that there's goals that aren't slipping through the cracks because we
Yeah.
haven't consciously thought about them in a while.
Exactly, and I think some of the goals, even though we've established them as sort of 12 months fiscal year goals, I think we realized when we set them and we looked at them that there'll be some that will certainly not be done by the end of the year, and will extend into beyond the end of the fiscal year, but, you know, we did that with intent, so, good suggestion, though.
And that's all I have for us tonight.
Mr. Plasko.
I think this evening's a good time to pass.
Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. Just wanted to note the passing of Patty Griffin-Starr.
Oh, yes.
That happened between this meeting and our last meeting. Unfortunately, everyone's probably got a great story about Patty. She was beloved, and I got to know her pretty well over the past couple of years, and she was just really a great person, great family. So it's very sad, and I know you knew her very well, and probably Mr. Sad, I'm sure everyone.
Knew her a long time, and her family and her father before her, and she was really involved and a great person,
Yeah, she just gave so much time to the town, so she really exemplified,
We'll end up with the responsibility of replacing her.
Yeah.
It'll be the board and the remaining members of the housing authority.
Yeah, so just.
39 years is that?
Huh?
She was 39 years a member of the.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, so, but that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lane, for that. That's very kind of you. Mr. Sack.
Oh, I was gonna say thank you, Matt, about that, but anybody wants to make a donation for Dance with the Stars, they're more than welcome to do that for memory of Patty. Second, I wanna congratulate, welcome all the spring sports, finish strong this year. Benches, Mr. Manager, in South Norwood, and we talked about that a couple months ago, if we can kinda look into that, just put a few benches somewhere where they were knocked out by the Bobcats.
Yeah, so it's not that they were knocked out. We pull some of them in the winter and then we put them back when we do our spring cleanup, so.
So, no, the spring, okay. That's it, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. The Middle School Building Committee is having a meeting on April 14th, I believe, Mr. Lane, at 4 p.m., a little earlier than our scheduled meeting, because they're going to schedule, we're scheduling another tour of the building. I'll get an email out to the board just as a reminder, just to confirm that time, but certainly the Middle School Building Committee extends its invitation to members of the board, and Mr. Mizuko, well, you're on the committee, to take advantage of that timeline for the tour. The building is coming along quite well. It's been a couple of months since we had a tour, so I'm really anxious to see what the inside's looking like. It's probably really been built out since then. And the only other thing before we go into executive session, I just want to thank the board because this being our last meeting before the April election, I became the chair of the board back in April of last year, and I just want to thank the board for this, my term as chair. Has been eventful, and I've enjoyed it a lot, and I just wanted to have a note of appreciation to the board members themselves for the work, the diligence, and the cooperation that you've given me, and just want to say thanks. Appreciate it a lot.
Great job,
It's
Mr. Chairman.
been
and
a
Vice Chairman.
Thank you.
been a venture, so
Thank
to
you for the
speak.
job you did.
So with that, we do have an executive session scheduled. We will go into executive session. We will only be coming out of the executive, when we come out of executive session, we will only be coming back into public session for the purpose of adjournment. So at this point in time, I'm going to read the executive session purpose in motion. Executive session to conduct, its purpose 2, conduct strategy sessions in preparations for negotiation with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Could I have a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Sad?
Yeah, second, yeah.
Seconds it. I'll take the roll call.
Yes.
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 Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Sad? Mr. Donnelly votes yes, and we're now in executive session. Good night, everyone.